Chapter 654. Muj pointed at Han Fei and shouted, "You failed. You failed too." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Everyone fails. What's wrong with me failing?" In fact, Han Fei's heart was in turmoil. If Mu Jia hadn't said more than 30 years ago, Han Fei wouldn't have suspected it at all. After all, the Supreme Commander was at such a high level. How could it have anything to do with him? For example, Xue Shenqi, the current Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island, had been deified. The Supreme Commander also represented invincibility. Han Fei knew that his strength couldn't be lower than that of a law enforcer. However, it was more than 30 years ago. Han Fei had heard this many times 30 years ago. The Thug Academy declined more than 30 years ago. Han Fei was stimulated by the word descendant again. However, when he thought about it carefully, something seemed wrong. More than 30 years ago, the other party had betrayed the clan, which should have nothing to do with him. After all, he was only 12 years old when he transmigrated. According to Mu Jia, at that time, Han Guanshu should have been killed. Even if he wasn't killed but escaped, it was unlikely that the once arrogant Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island found a random woman, got married, and had children, right? This was like a wealthy tycoon suddenly finding a wife in the countryside. The chances of this happening were extremely small. Besides, Han Fei guessed that Han Guanshu probably had a relationship with the Thug Academy and the Thousand Star City. If Han Guanshu had something to do with him, no one would have ignored him before. After all, he took the initiative to find old Jiang. Besides, he had a useless bloodline. Guan Qingyan said, "It is said that General Han once refined a divine weapon with ultra-quality materials. He is also the only person in the Scattered Stars Island and the Thousand Star City who can refine a divine weapon with ultra-quality materials." Han Fei immediately frowned. "No way. Although divine weapons are rare, I often hear about them. For example, there is a divine weapon sky hanging mirror in the level 3 fishery. Then where did these divine weapons come from?" Muj rolled her eyes and said, "Are you stupid? What we're talking about is refining a divine weapon from the materials of a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. It doesn't mean that divine weapons can't be refined. If the materials used were peerless and rare, then it would naturally be possible to refine a divine weapon. However, where can I find such materials?" Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "There are a lot of ultra-quality materials. There must be such materials." Guan Qingyan nodded. "Yes, but they are extremely rare. This was also the reason why divine weapons were rare in the entire Thousand Star City. If we can use top-grade materials to forge a divine weapon, then that would be a pioneering move. It would be a great merit to mankind." Han Fei shrugged. "I don't have that ability anyway. Right now, there are very few formations that I can create with a single stump. Even if they set it up meticulously, they would only be able to set up 2 or 3 stacking formations. Don't talk about creating your own formation, even copying it would be a little difficult." Guan Qingyan pondered and said, "If refining a divine weapon is so easy, someone on the Scattered Stars Island would have done it a long time ago. Someone has to give it a try. No matter how difficult it is, we have to give it a try." Han Fei patted Guan Qingyan's shoulder. "Okay, try it. I still have a lot of things to do." "Hey Mu Jia, don't be lazy. You still don't have the slightest awareness of becoming an expert. Continue refining." 3 days later, Han Fei, Mu Jia, and Guan Qingyan's hands were trembling. Mu Jia gasped. No, I can't refine weapons like this anymore. I'll die." Guan Qingyan said lightly, "My spiritual power has increased." Mu Jia said angrily, "Really? I don't care. I want to eat and sleep." Han Fei took the banner back from the shop assistant, paid the salary, and sat down in the refining room. Come on. Thank you for your hard work. Let me show you the power of the hot pot." After a moment, Mu Jia jumped up. Yes, this is delicious. What is this made of? What kind of spiritual fruit is this? It has such a magical taste." Han Fei was speechless. "Can you sit down first?" Mu Jia dragged Han Fei. Teach me. Han Fei pushed her aside. You can't learn it even if I teach you. Good things are rare. It took me decades to collect these seasonings, but you ate them in one meal. How can I teach you? Mu Jiar widened her eyes regretfully. Are they so precious? The corners of Guan Qingyan's mouth twitched again. He felt that Mu Jiar's IQ should be improved. This spiritual fruit had no spiritual energy at all. How could these things be as precious as Han Fei said? Han Fei must have some unique tricks that he didn't want to reveal. However, Guan Qingyan didn't point it out. On the path of cultivation, one must avoid distraction. If one couldn't even resist the desire for food, how could one achieve great things? However, Guan Qingyan glanced at the hot pot and thought to himself, this thing is really delicious. Let's finish this meal first and then ban it later. After eating and drinking, Han Fei drove the two of them away without hesitation. If he didn't drive them away, he would have to keep them for the night. Only Mu Jiar pitifully poured away the hot pot soup, saying that it was still edible and she had to save it. At that time, Han Fei thought, if she finds out, will she beat me to death? But Han Fei didn't care so much. He quickly looked at his waist tag, which had a total of 14.2 million points. Han Fei was overjoyed. His only pity was that many people didn't seal creatures above level 40. Many people chose creatures below level 40, which led to a great reduction in their points income. Otherwise, even 20 million points wouldn't be enough to stop him. Han Fei tidied up a little and quickly ran out of the refining hall. On the way, many people saw Han Fei and shouted, Master Han, when will you refine next time? Master Han, don't run. I have money. Master Han, let me see you off. Master Han. In a flash, Han Fei had run away. Because it wasn't a holiday yet, none of them had a holiday. Although Luo Xiaobai's daily office was not far from the refining hall, she knew that Han Fei was busy refining, so she wouldn't disturb him. Only Lu Renquang called Han Fei every day. All the calls were for Han Fei to help him refine weapons and seal spirits. In a few days, Han Fei planned to seal spirits on all their weapons. At this moment, Han Fei stood at the gate of the logistics division, calling Lu Renquang. Han Fei said, Quangang, are you there? Answer me as soon as possible. In less than 2 minutes, Lu Renquang responded, Are you done? Without hesitation, Han Fei immediately asked, Is the 1,000 poison fruit still there? On the other end of the waist tag, there was a moment of silence. Han Fei, let me tell you, don't be angry. That 1,000 poison fruit was bought by someone else 2 days ago. Han Fei was dumbfounded and then cursed, Didn't I tell you to keep an eye on it? Is this how you see it? I've worked so hard for several months and finally got the money, and you tell me that the 1,000 poison fruit is gone? Lu Renquang said with a guilty conscience, Well, you know, the thing is obvious. My words don't matter. Besides, the 1,000 poison fruit was bought by an 8-star brigadier general. I can't stop him. Why don't you take a look and see which ones can be used first? Han Fei was helpless. What do I need you for? What about the other logistics division? Is there 1,000 poison fruit? I have money. Lu Renquang scoffed. Do you think the 1,000 poison fruit is cabbage? It has been hanging here for more than 3 months and no one bought it. Who knew that a rich guy suddenly appeared and bought it? I can't do anything about it. Han Fei snorted. But I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go about your business. I'm going to see if there is anything else. The 1,000 poison fruit, as its name suggested, could cure all poisons, which was quite rare. Although it might not be able to completely block all poisons, according to the records in Han Fei's complete collection of spiritual plants in the infinite ocean, this was one of the best anti-poison fruits. Just having one was already a blessing from the heavens, yet it was gone just like that. At the counter of the logistics division, Han Fei said, I want a rare exchange catalog. In the logistics division, all the collections would be recorded on the exchange catalog. On the general exchange catalog, there were only some materials, spiritual fruits, spiritual springs, etc. However, there was spirit awakening fluid on it, which seemed to be a benefit for ordinary people on the Scattered Stars Island. There was no threshold for exchanging for spirit awakening fluid. On the advanced exchange catalog, There were mostly some rare things, and ordinary ultra-quality materials couldn't even be listed. On the rare exchange catalog, there were really rare things such as soul crystals, life fruits, exotic creatures, and extremely rare spiritual fruits, which were generally listed here. Han Fei asked for a rare exchange catalog, stood by the counter, and quickly flipped to the anti-poison fruit category. In an instant, more than 100 anti-poison fruits appeared in front of Han Fei. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 655. In the hall of the logistics division, there was a hubbub of voices. Trading points was happening all the time. From the side doors on both sides, there were things being transported inside. In the end, the points that the people earned from fighting and working were all handed over to the logistics division. They also helped the logistics division clear a lot of their inventory. This is a market that has been developing for a long time. The law of the market has emerged, and the market can automatically adjust the economy. At this time, Han Fei was studying the anti-poison fruits one by one. Why was he so obsessed with fighting the poisonous fruit? It was because of Chao Chio's Poison King and Poison God. Only Chao Chio could refine thousands of poisons in different ways. Ordinary people couldn't do this. Han Fei was confident that if he was poisoned by the current Poison God, even if he didn't die, he wouldn't be far from it. Therefore, the matter of the anti-poison fruit must be put on the agenda. Any one of these anti-poison fruits was comparable to the venomous tulip. Unfortunately, there was still a large gap between it and the myriad poison fruit. Han Fei muttered to himself. Jade ghost bamboo? No, this thing is used by poison cultivators. Its toxicity is too overbearing. After eating this thing, he wouldn't even be able to kiss her. Sky spider grass? This thing could only resist the poison of sea spiders and sea scorpions. 1 million points? Too expensive, too expensive. Let's take a look again. Poison-repelling fruit? This seems alright. Its effects are better than the venomous tulip and the 1,000 poisons fruit. 2, for million points. This was daylight robbery. He took another look. After turning many pages, Han Fei's eyes lit up. Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect? Han Fei's eyelids twitched several times when he saw this. He knew that this thing was a living bug. After it was swallowed, it would not move around. Once it was poisoned, it would help its host absorb the poison. However, according to the complete collection of spiritual plants in the Endless Sea realm, this plant seemed to have a tolerance limit. How would it fare against the poison god? Han Fei looked at the price. 8 million points of credit, which made Han Fei's blood freeze. However, although it seemed a little scary to have a bug living in his body. However, the effect of this thing was not bad at all. The difference between the 1,000 poison fruit and the 1,000 poison fruit was that the 1,000 poison fruit could basically cure all poisons, preventing a large portion of poisons from harming the body. However, the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect seemed to be able to detoxify any poison. In the end, the insect itself became more and more poisonous until it died from the poison. In a sense, the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect was even stronger than the 1,000 poison fruit. After all, although the 1,000 poison fruit was said to be able to resist thousands of poisons, it was not truly omnipotent. However, there was a reason why no one bought this insect. It seemed to be an insatiable greed. It was said that it was extremely easy to overeat oneself to death. The second was that it was difficult to grow, and the amount of poison they could swallow was limited. If this insect died, it would still be useless. Han Fei made up his mind and immediately listed this item as one of his options. After reading more than 100 kinds of anti-poison items, he found that the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect was the most cost-effective one. Of course, if he had the ability to buy all of these 100 or so anti-poison items, the effect would probably be even stronger than the 1,000 poison fruit. But the problem was that it was almost impossible. That was worth hundreds of millions of points. Immediately, Han Fei went to the counter. I want to exchange for the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect. The girl behind the counter was stunned. She said in astonishment, "You want to exchange for the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect?" Immediately, The girl took a breath. Can you show me your waist tag first? Han Fei immediately handed over his waist tag. When the staff saw Han Fei's 14.6 million points, she was a little dumbfounded. A junior hanging fisher, 4-star, 14.6 million points? Where did this guy get so many points? Immediately, the girl said, please wait a moment. After that, the girl said a few words to the waist token. After that, she gave Han Fei a sweet look. What's your name? What's your position? Han Fei said with a smile, Han Fei, 3rd column, deputy captain of the 8th battalion. The girl's eyes lit up. A junior hanging fisher became the deputy captain of a battalion? The girl asked, how old are you? Han Fei was taken aback. Do I have to provide this too? I am 16 years old this year. The girl exclaimed, you are 2 years younger than me. Then do you have a girlfriend? Cough, cough, Han Fei blushed. Yes, yes, the girl was quite disappointed and then sighed. Then do you mind having one more? Han Fei? The girl giggled. Don't be scared. I'm just kidding. The heaven spirit detoxifying insect you want will be delivered to you soon. Do you need anything else? Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Girls nowadays are so unrestrained. Who can resist them? Han Fei said, by the way, give me 100 level 1 soul crystals and 10 level 2 soul crystals. And 500 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. The girl couldn't help but be very envious. It's so nice to be a rich big shot. In the blink of an eye, he had spent 6.7 million points. It must be noted that the promotion points for a 6-star slaughterer were only 5 million points. That was to say, if Han Fei had enough combat skills and 5 million points of credit, he could immediately hang a 6-star waist tag on his waist. What an honor it was! Even the promotion points for a 7-star centurion were only 10 million points. Of course, at that point, points were only one of the conditions for promotion. But in the eyes of others, Han Fei was so young and had already obtained so many points. As long as he didn't die, it was not a particularly difficult thing for him to rise in stars. After about half an hour, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect, soul crystals, and spirit awakening fluid were all delivered to the counter. As soon as Han Fei put away the things, the girl said, do you really not want to consider exchanging contact information with me? I'm only 2 years older than you, but I look like I'm 15. Han Fei was embarrassed and immediately fled. What? You're already 15? Do I look like the kind of person who likes lolis? Seeing Han Fei flee, the receptionist girl giggled for a while. When the laughter stopped, she suddenly became serious, grabbed the waist tag and said, Han Fei, deputy captain of the 8th battalion of the 3rd column, junior hanging fisher. Currently holding a 4-star rank, stationed on the skeleton shore. This person has just exchanged 6.7 million points for a batch of materials. Pay close attention to him. This person may be a heavenly talent. No one knew who the girl was talking to. It was like a routine report, and then she quietly waited for the next person to exchange for materials. Han Fei naturally didn't know any of this. He felt that he was not high profile in a sense. Although he had shown his talent in refining, he wouldn't offend anyone. Although he killed the red demon, he did it with the help of others. Han Fei hadn't checked out of the number 18 refining room he rented in the refining hall. He just ran out in a hurry and then ran back in a hurry. According to the staff of the refining hall, Han Fei naturally went to the logistics division to exchange for refining materials. Someone even shouted, Master Han, are you going to start refining again? Han Fei responded without looking back. No, I need to do some research. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. In the refining room, Han Fei took out a jade box first. What was inside was naturally the heaven spirit detoxifying insect. After setting up a defensive array, Han Fei opened the box. What appeared in his field of vision was a thumb-sized pure gold beetle. It looked a bit like a pure golden turtle scarab. It looked chubby and didn't know how to run. It just lay in the box foolishly. This guy seemed to be timid. It tilted its head and glanced at Han Fei. Han Fei was immediately amused. It looked a little better than he thought. At least it wasn't a myriapod. Otherwise, he would be scared to death. A string of information emerged in his eyes. Names: Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect. Introduction: an insect that is immune to all poisons. It can swallow all poisons in the world. It grows up by eating poisons and changes because of poisons. However, once it consumed too much poison and exceeded its body's tolerance limit, it would die from overeating. This insect can live in the body of a living creature and must be fed with spiritual energy, poisons, etc., and cannot be fed with other energy. Otherwise it will die. Level 30 Quality: Exotic, Upgradable. Contains spiritual energy greater than 600 points. Edible effect: Inedible, collectibles. Heaven Spirit Liquid. Han Fei immediately took a breath. This insect had a lot of room to grow. It was only level 30. If it fed on poisons, wouldn't he have to eat poisons every day? Originally, he just wanted to protect himself from poisons. But now, he had to eat poisons every day. However, level 30 was too low. It probably couldn't survive more than a few poisons. If it was a poison at the level of the Poison King, as long as the amount was enough, it could definitely kill the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect in one go. Han Fei was speechless. So, this was the reason why no one bought it, right? For one thing, the price of 3.6 million points of credit was really not cheap, and for another, it had to be fed with poisons every day, which was not something that ordinary people could do. Although the logistics division could also buy poisonous animals, once they raised this little thing, they would have to provide it with food often, and it would be for life. This inevitably led to the fact that the price of buying it might be cheap, but the price of raising it was surprisingly high. Although it didn't have to be sponsored partnerships, it wouldn't be of much use if its level couldn't rise. This was a paradox. Han Fei couldn't help thinking, can I only feed it poison? Will Spirit Awakening Fluid work? Little Black and the others all loved Spirit Awakening Fluid very much. That thing could help them make breakthroughs quickly. Can't the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect work? No, I have to try. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 656. Han Fei didn't immediately let this little insect parasitize him, but took out the Spirit Awakening Fluid. He didn't put much in, just filling this small box to prevent the insect he bought with 3.6 million points of credit from being stuffed to death. As a result, a magical scene appeared. The Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect was only the size of a thumb, but a box of Spirit Awakening Fluid was absorbed by it in almost 10 minutes, without any omission. Han Fei was amazed. Spirit Awakening Fluid didn't seem to be energy. He drank 200 kilograms of Spirit Awakening Fluid, but where did it go? In any case, after it entered his body, it became a mysterious thing that strengthened his physique. He didn't even know whether it had dissipated or not. After eating the Spirit Awakening Fluid, the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect glanced at Han Fei again and poked him with its two little claws. Han Fei was speechless. You are not a fly. Why are you rubbing? Do you want to wash your hands? So Han Fei poured another box for it, but in the blink of an eye, it was gone again. He did this repeatedly, and when he poured 100 kilograms, the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect upgraded. Han Fei was surprised by her appetite. Where did she eat all the food? Han Fei was thrilled by this scene. However, he was only excited for a moment when it was upgraded, because Han Fei was speechless to find that he couldn't afford to raise this thing. 100 kilograms of Spirit Awakening Fluid was 500,000 points of credit. If he wanted to cultivate this thing to level 40, 1,000 kilograms was definitely not enough. Besides, it cost 3.6 million points of credit to buy it, and it was fed with poisonous food. Han Fei suddenly sat on the ground, his eyes dull. Oh no, I lost a lot. I bought a foodie. Spirit Awakening Fluid was very rare, and Han Fei didn't want to continue to waste it. He made a cut on his arm with the blood-drinking knife, then grabbed the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect and pressed it on the wound. Immediately, the insect's body became a little smaller. Then, it drilled directly into the wound from the arm to the chest. Originally, this insect stayed in the chest and didn't move. But suddenly, for some reason, this guy began to drill down again, all the way to the dantian. Han Fei found that this insect was interested in the seed, but he was speechless. Don't fucking court death. Even I can't move that seed. Don't torment yourself to death. Sure enough, after the heaven spirit detoxifying insect crawled over, it circled the seed for a long time. It seemed to touch the seed, but it could not touch it at all. It was as if the seed was illusory. Seeing that it was hopeless, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect laid down beside the seed and remained motionless. Han Fei had a headache, but there was nothing he could do. He had already bought it and fed it. He couldn't send it back, could he? No matter what, as long as the insect was still alive, he should be immune to all poisons. Although the price might be a little high, at least he had a layer of assurance in his heart. After he stopped studying the heaven spirit detoxifying insect, he took out the soul crystals. This time, his mental power reached 1501 points. Han Fei immediately knew that the God-scaring painting could already be cultivated, and his perception range would continue to increase. After a while, Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. The 26th fragment of the God-scaring painting still costs only 50 level 1 soul crystals, but the perception range is still 500 meters? On average, 1 soul crystal still increased his perception range by 10 meters. 100 soul crystals were soon used up, and Han Fei only remembered 27 fragments of the God-scaring painting. There was no special difference between level 1 soul crystals and level 2 soul crystals, except that the color was a little darker. Maybe the quality was better, but Han Fei wasn't sure. When he absorbed them, he didn't feel any difference, but when Han Fei absorbed the third piece, the difference appeared. When the third soul crystal was absorbed, Han Fei had remembered the 28th fragment of the God-scaring painting. Are level 2 soul crystals better than level 1 soul crystals? In the logistics division, the price of a level 2 soul crystal was 30,000 points, and the price of a level 1 soul crystal was 3,000 points. The difference between the two was 10 times. But in terms of effect, the effect of 3 level 2 soul crystals was equal to the effect of 50 level 1 soul crystals. In terms of cost-effectiveness, it was far better than level 1 soul crystals. Han Fei couldn't help but be a little moved. It seemed that the higher the level of the soul crystal, the better the effect. Soon after staying in the refining room for less than an hour, Han Fei came out again. This time, Han Fei went to the logistics division again, and it was the same window. Yes, it was the damn window just now. Because the rare exchange record was taken from her, there wouldn't be many people coming to this window. Unless the logistics division was too busy, they would temporarily use this window. When the little girl saw Han Fei, she immediately smiled. Have you thought it through? Are you going to ask me out? Wait for another hour, and then I'll get off work. We can go to the club and have some drinks. Han Fei was immediately embarrassed. Well, can I exchange another 500 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid and 100 level 2 soul crystals? The little girl's pupils immediately shrank. So many? Han Fei smiled. Not for myself. I bought them for my senior brother. Your senior brother? Han Fei nodded repeatedly. Door-carrying Marshall, my senior brother. Han Fei also knew that if he rashly bought too many level 2 soul crystals, he might attract attention. Therefore, he naturally used Wang Dashuai's name as a scapegoat. Anyway, this matter was probably not a secret, and his senior brother would use it at this time. Later, he could go to the Empyrean waterfall and chat with his senior brother for a while. However, the little girl said, the number of level 2 soul crystals is limited. You have already exchanged for 10 today. You can only exchange for 10 more. The upper limit for 4-star ranks is 20. The upper limit for 5-star ranks is 50, and the upper limit for 6-star ranks is 100. Han Fei was stunned. Every day? Of course not, every month. Han Fei immediately gasped. But then I'll exchange for 10 first. And 20 level 1 soul crystals. I'll let my senior brother exchange for the rest himself. By the way, is there a limit for exchanging spirit awakening fluid? The little girl nodded. Yes, the limit for 4-star and 5-star ranks is 1,000 kilograms per month. You have just exchanged for the upper limit. Of course, if you explain the use and submit an application, I should be able to approve another 1,000 kilograms. Han Fei said with a smile, no, it's enough. I'll feed it to my contractual spiritual beast. Except for the logistics division, Han Fei was speechless. There was a purchase limit? That was not easy. In the refining room, Han Fei had consumed all the soul crystals in his hand. His perception range had increased to 14,499 meters, a full range of 30 kilometers, but Han Fei didn't feel that it had reached the upper limit. However, the purchase limit was too disgusting. With his 4-star rank, he could only exchange for 20 level 2 soul crystals. Then wouldn't he only be able to exchange for 10 3-star ranks? However, on second thought, it seemed that others did not absorb soul crystals as fast as he did. Han Fei immediately said to his waist tag, "Is Quang Quang here?" "Yes, you haven't left yet. Don't ask too much. When you get off work, come to the number 18 refining room of the refining hall to find me." "Okay, do you want to eat hot pot?" "Fuck off, you only know how to eat. I'm going to cultivate first. You can work first." Han Fei's so-called cultivation was to pour spirit awakening fluid into his body. He poured about 300 caddies of spirit awakening fluid, and his upper limit of spiritual energy was increased to 9,262 points, which was not much. 300 caddies of spirit awakening fluid was equivalent to increasing Han Fei's upper limit of spiritual energy by 261 points. On average, 1 caddy of spirit awakening fluid increased his upper limit of spiritual energy by less than 1 point. The benefit of Han Fei's spirit awakening fluid was that his physique had become better. When Lu Renquang arrived, Han Fei stopped cultivating. As soon as Lu Renquang arrived, he said happily, "Huh. Fei, have you made a breakthrough?" Han Fei asked, "Isn't it natural for me to make a breakthrough?" Lu Renquang shook his head. "No, from a peak-level dangling fisher to a hanging fisher. It doesn't seem that simple. I'm still a little short. I thought I would be faster than you, but who knew that you would make a breakthrough first?" Han Fei nodded. "I just made a breakthrough and need to consolidate. By the way, I have something to tell you." Lu Renquang nodded. "Why are you so polite? Let's eat hot pot." Han Fei immediately said, "Give me your waist tag." Han Fei immediately matched Lu Renquang's waist tag with his own. With a thought, he transferred all his remaining 5 million points to Lu Renquang. "Oh," Lu Renquang said excitedly, "for me? Did you make a fortune?" I'm rich. Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Bullshit. You think too much. I gave you all my belongings so that you could help me buy some things from the logistics division." Lu Renquang's body stiffened and his face was even uglier than crying. "It's not for me?" Han Fei was helpless. "Even if I wanted to give something, I would give it to Xia Shaochan. Why should I give it to you?" Lu Renquang said with a sad face, "I knew it wouldn't be a good thing. Tell me, what do you want?" Han Fei said, "I want as many level 2 soul crystals as I can. In addition, help me buy a lot of poisonous grasses, poisonous fruits, and other materials between level 30 and level 40. Lu Renquang was taken aback. "Level 2 soul crystals? You've already used level 2 soul crystals?" Han Fei asked, "Can I absorb them quickly?" Lu Renquang explained, "The things on the rare exchange list are all limited. Although I work in it, forget it, I'll try." Han Fei nodded. "Okay, I'll get them from you the next time we meet. By the way, if you need to use these points, you can also use them. But don't forget to buy them. If you don't have enough points, tell me." Lu Renquang took a deep breath. "Is refining so profitable? Is it too late for me to change to refining now?" Han Fei said disdainfully, Talent is the key. Go away, I'm not here to chat with you today. I have to consolidate my cultivation. Go to your own thing." Lu Renquang was speechless and was driven out of the refining room by Han Fei. He looked dumbfounded. "But you don't even let me have a bite?" At night, in the number 18 refining room, Han Fei slowly opened his eyes and data appeared. Onert Han Fei, level greater than 43, junior hanging fisher, Spiritual energy greater than 146,655, 9758. Spiritual power 1, 588/1, 588. Perception range greater than 14,499 meters. Spiritual heritage level 5. High quality spiritual beast. Twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish level 38. Main art void breaking technique. Volume 4 of void fishing. Demon level divine quality. Add up the monthly votes and save them for one or more outbursts. Third chapter. Asking for votes. Attention, attention, attention. The growth of the monthly votes has slowed down now. It may be a bit difficult to add chapters every day. Yesterday, someone in the book review suggested that we should add up the monthly votes and save them for a one-time outburst. I think this method is feasible. We can have an outburst every few days, or we can have more outbursts in the new year. What do you think? Today is the third chapter. No more at night. End of this chapter. Chapter 657. Working hard to earn points so far, Han Fei had almost used up 14.6 million points in one day. Although these consumption didn't seem to improve his combat power much, the improvement of his comprehensive ability was terrifying. This also meant that Han Fei had the power to protect himself on the Scattered Stars Island. Of course, in Han Fei's mind, those ordinary frontline soldiers and ordinary senior scouts were not his targets. Next, what Han Fei had to do was to accumulate military merits, kill 100 people, and find a way to get a 5-star rank. In theory, Han Fei could get a 5-star rank just by refining like Mu Jia and Guan Qingyan. However, although they all had 5-star ranks, their goals were different. Mu Jia and the others had high achievements in refining, so when they were assigned various tasks, the first thing the higher-ups thought of was to let them refine weapons. But Han Fei refined weapons for the sake of making money. If refining didn't make money, what was the point of refining? At this moment, Han Fei couldn't make any more breakthroughs. In terms of level, he had broken through to level 43. Although he hadn't reached the peak yet, once he reached the peak, he had to prepare to become an intermediate hanging fisher. In that case, his breakthrough speed would be too fast, which would definitely surprise many people, which was not a good thing. There was still one day before their rest day. Han Fei didn't plan to go back immediately but went to study arrays. The information inadvertently revealed by Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia made Han Fei feel that it might be possible to refine divine weapons. However, he had just started to study arrays and still needed time to consolidate his knowledge. Before Han Fei started his research, Yu Lingyun had already found him. Han Fei was surprised. "Why are you here? Did something happen to the skeleton shore?" Yu Lingyun shook her head. "No, the red demons attacked, so the skeleton shore has become the focus of attention recently, so it's been quiet during this period." Han Fei asked. Then, Yu Lingyun looked at Han Fei with a complicated look. "Captain, you and Captain Chow have been called to go to sea." Han Fei was taken aback. "What? Called to go to sea? Who called you?" "It was the former Captain Zhong Han who came to inform us in person. It seems to be a task." Han Fei was lost for words. "But aren't people of my level not allowed to go to sea?" Yu Lingyun pondered for a moment. "Captain, you're too high profile." Han Fei was surprised. "Why am I high profile? Even though I have become a 3-star blacksmith, it has nothing to do with being high profile, right?" Yu Lingyun asked. "Captain, have you forgotten that you killed 2 red demons?" Han Fei was lost for words. "I didn't kill him with my own strength. How can this be considered high profile?" Yu Lingyun tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. "Won't it be high profile?" Yu Lingyun had a complicated expression on her face. Han Fei rose too fast. More than 2 months ago, when she first picked Han Fei up, he was only an advanced dangling fisher. It only took him 2 months to become a junior hanging fisher. Although it was not that no one could catch up to Han Fei's cultivation speed, such people were few and far between. Yu Lingyun felt that she had encountered a genius among geniuses. Han Fei had led them to sea no more than 20 times so far, but he had changed a batch of weapons for the entire 8th Battalion. Besides, after several battles, Han Fei's performance was excellent, which was already very eye-catching. Yu Lingyun had long felt that people like Han Fei wouldn't stay in the 8th Battalion for long. Sure enough, it had only been more than 2 months, and Han Fei was already qualified to go to sea. Han Fei asked, "Tell me first, what is the situation of going to sea? Is there any inside story?" Yu Lingyun shook her head. "I don't know, although you and Captain Chow are both geniuses. Although you and Captain Chow are both geniuses, it stands to reason that with your current strength, you shouldn't go to sea. So I guess there will be a lot of people traveling with you. And there should be strong masters protecting you." Han Fei frowned. "Then what should I do now? Should I go back to the skeleton shore and wait?" "No, Captain Zhong Han asked me to tell you that the gathering place is in the Sea God Square in the central city of the Scattered Stars Island." "Sea God Square? Where is that?" Yu Lingyun explained, "I've only been there once. It's just a square outside the central city, with a statue of the sea god. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be anything special. I only know that the Sea God Square is outside the central city of the Scattered Stars Island, at the junction of the Transverse Mountain and the Twisted Jungle." Han Fei asked, "Where is Chao Chiu? Why didn't he come?" "Captain Chow has already gone there. Captain Zhong Han asked you to go there early too. We have to gather tomorrow morning." Han Fei suddenly said, "Then let's go. Who will lead the 8th Battalion?" "Captain Zhong Han will take over for the time being. When you come back, you should still be in the 8th Battalion for the time being." Just as Han Fei and Yu Lingyun were talking in the refining hall, they found that Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang came together. Lu Renkuang said, "Fei Fei, I have something to tell you." Han Fei tilted his head and looked at the two of them. "Are you going to the Sea God Square?" Lu Renkuang was stunned. "You know this too?" Luo Xiaobai had already become a hanging fisher. She glanced at Han Fei. "If there are no accidents, I'm afraid Xiaochan and Zhang Xuanyu will also go." Yu Lingyun still remembered that these two were Han Fei's original team members. At this moment, she was secretly surprised. Is this team really so powerful? Especially Lu Renkuang. This guy hasn't become a hanging fisher yet, right? How can he go to sea? Han Fei looked at Yu Lingyun and said, "Why don't you go back first?" Yu Lingyun took a deep look at them. "Okay." After Yu Lingyun left, Lu Renkuang couldn't help whispering, "Fei Fei, this woman looks so fierce." Han Fei asked, "Really? Don't think she looks fierce just because she has a scar on her face. You cut your face twice, but you look even fiercer." Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. "Han Fei, your breakthrough seems a bit fast." Han Fei asked in surprise, "Fast?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Don't forget, you are a body cultivator. Besides, I feel that you have now completely consolidated your realm as a junior hanging fisher." Han Fei said with a smile, "It's okay. I probably won't make another breakthrough during this period of time. Although my realm has increased, my physique is not much stronger. I still need some time to adapt." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let's go. Let's meet Xiaochan and the others first." Han Fei and Lu Renkuang were both stunned. "Are you in such a hurry?" Luo Xiaobai said, "If I'm not mistaken, many disciples of the big clans and sects in the Thousand Star City have come." Han Fei's face changed slightly. "Let's go. Let's go." When he saw Chao Chiu, Han Fei knew that the younger generation of the Thousand Star City had come. However, the Scattered Stars Island was not small, and he stayed on the skeleton shore for a long time, so he didn't meet those people. But at this moment, hearing what Luo Xiaobai said, it should be more or less the same. Along the way, Luo Xiaobai said, "If my guess is right, the reason why we were gathered should be a group of the most outstanding newcomers selected by the Scattered Stars Island according to the observation of the newcomers in the past 2 months. And the so-called sea trip shouldn't be too far away. Otherwise, with so many geniuses gathered, it will be easy to cause the sea demons to attack. If something happens, the loss will outweigh the gain." Han Fei frowned slightly. "If this is the case, Lu Renkuang, do you want to make a breakthrough?" Lu Renkuang nodded. "Temporary breakthroughs are not stable. It's better to make a breakthrough after coming back. The longer I stay here, the more powerful I will be after the breakthrough." Luo Xiaobai nodded. If the 5 of us can get together, it shouldn't be a big problem. Going to sea is not a small matter, and there must be masters following us, so I'm afraid we don't need to do anything. Over the Scattered Stars Island, the fishing boat couldn't be fast, so it took Han Fei and the others half an hour to fly to the Sea God Square in the middle of the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei lay on the bow of the boat, looked at the city below, and judged from the layout of the lights. This central city doesn't seem to cover a large area. Luo Xiaobai said, the central city is actually not a city, but more like a place for high-level masters. Here, there are many masters, and some supreme orders and special personnel appointments are issued from here. Soon, they came to the so-called Sea God Square. Arriving with Han Fei and the others were 5 or 6 fishing boats flying over from other directions. Among them, Han Fei saw a familiar person, Zhang Wen from the Zhang family of the Thousand Star City. Zhang Wen obviously also noticed Han Fei. At the moment he saw Han Fei, his head was about to explode. Since he returned to the Thousand Star City from the Level 3 fishery, the fact that Zhang Wen was killed on the ground and had his head stomped on in 3 seconds couldn't be concealed at all. For this, he almost broke down. The people in his family didn't like him anymore, and he received fewer family resources. There were also quite a few people who were secretly laughing at him. Han Fei waved his hand enthusiastically. What a coincidence! Humph! Zhang Wen flew away with a swish, not wanting to talk to Han Fei. When Han Fei and the others landed, Xia Xiaochan and Zhang Xuanyu ran over as soon as possible. Xia Xiaochan nodded. This way. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. You're all here? Great, we can finally go to sea together again. Han Fei looked around. There were a lot of people here, more than 300. Among them, Han Fei found many familiar faces. In the 36 towns, Han Fei found Jiang Tong, Ming Kuan, Jing Changfeng, Gong Yuehan, Chu Sun, Lu Wei, Yu Xian from the 7 major sects of the Thousand Star City, Mo Fian, Yang Diu, Sun Mu, the Li brothers, Wang Zitian from the big clans. In addition, Han Fei was surprised to find that Mu Jia, and Guan Qingyan were also among them. However, Han Fei immediately discovered that Chao Tian, Chen Aochen, Tang Gu, Chao Jiaran, Mu Ling, and Yi Baiyu were not there, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 658. When Han Fei came, Yang De immediately roared, Han Fei, here you are again. Han Fei sneered. What? Do you want to fight me? Yang De scoffed. Do you think I'm afraid of you? I just forged a new divine axe and I'm worried that no one will fight me. Han Fei grinned. If you have enough money, you can have a try. With 2 heaven-level high-quality combat skills, I can make you doubt your life. Xia Xiaochan poked Han Fei. Xia Xiaochan poked Han Fei. Axe combat skills are useless to us. Han Fei thought about it. She was right. He quickly changed his tone. No heaven-level high-quality combat skills. With 10 million high-quality pearls, I'll make you doubt your life. Zhang Wen's face darkened. He had been blackmailed. However, he and Yi Baiyu had agreed not to tell anyone that he had been blackmailed of a heaven-level high-quality combat skill. Especially when the dragon boat was hijacked, Zhang Wen really wanted to kill Han Fei. He thought that Han Fei couldn't rob the dragon boat. However, this guy robbed it and killed a peak-level hanging fisher. At that time, how strong was Han Fei? He was just an advanced dangling fisher. Now, how strong was Han Fei? He was already a junior hanging fisher. For people like Han Fei, it was very dangerous to judge from his level alone. Besides, he had not only made a step forward, but also made a big step forward. As soon as Yang Diu heard this, he said to the Li brothers next to him, I won't give him a chance. If I can't beat him, I will run away. Mo Fian snorted. The question is whether you can run away or not. Chao Qiu dragged 2 swords and jumped towards Han Fei. Han Fei, our team has grown. Let's kill them this time. 2 swords said coldly, Ha, you think too much. Han Fei looked at Chao Qiu curiously. Where are your brother and sister? Tang Gu and Mu Ling? Where is Yi Baiyu? Chao Qiu shrugged. I don't know. I haven't seen them since I came to this place. 2 swords said, Not everyone will come. Some people are too outstanding and can choose not to come. Of the people you mentioned, Yi Baiyu is the weakest, but he is the fastest. Therefore, he is also one of those rare geniuses. Han Fei frowned. Could Tanggu and the others not come? This doesn't make sense. If these people were all here, Tanggu and the others should be here too. While Han Fei was thinking, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly chuckled. Hey, do you know, young lady? I saw you for the first time in the crowd. In this sea of people, everyone else is black and white, only you are colorful. You're like a gorgeous flower that can topple a city, so outstanding, so enchanting. As soon as Han Fei looked back, he saw Mu Zhou, blushing and standing shyly in front of Zhang Xuanyu, her hands tugging at the corners of her clothes. But, why are you standing in my way? Zhang Xuanyu's expression turned serious. Why am I in the way? Yes, the road is here, and you and I are walking on it. This is a kind of fate that brought you and I together. Mu Jia had never experienced such a scene, and her face was already red. Guan Qingyan directly grabbed Mu Jia's little braid and pulled her aside. Don't be fooled by flowery words. Mu Jia said stupidly, but I'm nervous. Zhang Xuanyu glanced at Guan Qingyan disdainfully. This kind of cold-faced killer wouldn't work on little girls. Zhang Xuanyu took a step, stood in front of Mu Jia again, and said with a smile, Look, we meet again on the road under our feet. Bam. Han Fei went up and kicked Zhang Xuanyu aside. Han Fei said to him via voice transmission with a black face, If you want to pick up girls, do it in private. This girl has a 5-star rank and her background is not small. Don't try to get close to her. Zhang Xuanyu glanced at Mu Jia regretfully and said, Girl, it's okay. Fate will bring us together again. At the same time, Zhang Xuanyu said to Han Fei via voice transmission, Come on, Fei Fei. Who is this girl? What's her name? She's so fucking cute. Do you know her? Introduce me. You have to match us. Han Fei ignored Zhang Xuanyu with a black face, coughed, pointed to Mu Jia and Guan Qingyan, and said, These two are the two genius refiners of the Scattered Stars Island. Mu Jia and Guan Qingyan are both 5-star refiners who can seal souls. Chao Qiu rolled his eyes and said, Silly Mu, why are you here? Wang Zitian frowned. Are you going to fight too? Mu Jia snorted. It's none of your business. You coward. Chao Qiu said angrily, Who's a coward? Make it clear. Am I a coward? I'm using my brain. Mu Jia pouted. You are a coward, a coward. Han Fei was taken aback. Do you know each other? The two major refiner families of the 1,000-star city, the Mu family and the Guan family. Han Fei pondered for a moment. Then these two families must have a strong background. Although he didn't know why these two people were also in the team this time, these two people were definitely targets for him to rope in. A refiner represented an endless supply of supreme-grade spiritual weapons, which would only be beneficial to his team and not detrimental to them. Besides, he had offended so many families in the 1,000-star city, so he had to win over these refiner families, right? After everyone introduced themselves, Mu Jia suddenly grabbed Han Fei's clothes. Liar, you are not from our 1,000-star city. Why do I feel that you know all of them? Swish. Han Fei's body stiffened and he hurriedly said, Let go of me, let go of me. Mu Jia was still in a daze, and the surrounding temperature dropped with a whoosh. Mu Jia shuddered. She turned her head and saw a face that was a little too exquisite. However, the owner of this face had a cold gleam in his eyes at this moment, which scared Mu Jia so much that she quickly let go of him. Xia Xiaochan looked at Mu Jia up and down. You look pretty. Han Fei nodded. Really? No, I'm definitely not as pretty as you. Xia Xiaochan tilted her head and smiled. Really? Han Fei immediately patted his chest. Of course, few people can compare to you in terms of appearance. Mu Jia bared her teeth when she heard this. Feeling that the situation was not good, Chao Qiu suddenly roared, stood between the two women, and pointed to the sky. Look, everyone looked up in the direction Chao Qiu pointed. After looking for a long time, Lu Renkuang scratched his head and asked, "Is there anything?" Chao Qiu said, "The starry sky is so beautiful." Everyone really wanted to kick Chao Qiu into the sky. "What the fuck is the starry sky beautiful?" Only Han Fei immediately said, "It's not bad. Look, meteors." There was an indescribable silence, until Mo Fian came over with a giggle. "Yo, little Guan Guan, Jia, why don't you say hello to me?" Mu Jia stood directly behind Guan Qingyan. She was a little afraid of Mo Fian. She always felt that she was a stupid lowly when it came to the sexy and coquettish Mo Fian. Guan Qingyan, on the other hand, nodded indifferently as a greeting. Then Mo Fian looked at Han Fei. "We meet again. Do you know? Because of you, we suffered a lot in the Thousand-Star City. This time, we met on the Scattered Stars Island. Is it really fate?" Han Fei glanced at Mo Fian and said lightly, "Now we are in the same realm. You basically have no chance." Mo Fian grinned. "Really? I'm looking forward to it. By the way, you can really consider being the son-in-law of our Mo family. In fact, it's really not bad." Hearing that, Han Fei just took a step aside. Mu Jia was silly and sweet, and Xia Xiaochan wouldn't really mind. Han Fei didn't say anything to Mo Fian's teasing and just let Xia Xiaochan go. Sure enough, Xia Xiaochan appeared in front of Mo Fian in a flash. With a splash, Mo Fian turned into a mass of water, and her body had already appeared dozens of meters away. Then, shadows flickered on the ground, and Mo Fian drew out a few water figures. Seeing that Mo Fian could create clones, Xia Xiaochan's shadowless blade flashed in the air and immediately forced Mo Fian's snake-shaped chain weapon out. Luo Xiaobai said, "Xiaochan, come back." Xia Xiaochan flashed and returned to everyone. On the other side, Mo Fian glanced at the clothes cut by Xia Xiaochan on her arm and couldn't help but frown. Although the battle between the two was very fast, the combat skills used by the two were extremely terrifying. Especially those from the 36 towns, such as Ming Kuan, Jing Changfeng, Jiang Tong, and others, they all felt that their hair was standing on end. It seemed that they hadn't seen Xia Xiaochan fight before. But just a few moves just now had already made these people's blood freeze. It was too fast. Xia Xiaochan pointed at Mo Fian with a dagger. "No one likes people like you." Mo Fian's face was black. "So, on the steps into the sea that day, it was you, right? Straight woman?" Xia Xiaochan tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. "What do you mean?" Han Fei suddenly felt a headache. "It means that you are very strong, outrageously strong." Xia Xiaochan proudly withdrew her dagger. "I know." The second chapter. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 659. At dawn, there was a glimmer of light in the sky. Most people were sitting cross-legged and cultivating, including Xia Xiaochan and the others. However, there were two figures sitting in the corner with serious looks on their faces. They were holding branches in their hands and seemed to be drawing something. Guan Qingyan said solemnly, "I've read all the ancient books in my family. The difficulty of arrays is not in drawing, but in the conception of the structure. Any type of formation has something in common. For example, if you inscribe a lot of small formations, when faced with an interlocking large formation, over time, you will be able to get rid of the complexity and become a large formation." Han Fei frowned. "I know this. The key to the problem is not the small array, nor the big array, but the step of simplifying the complicated array. Only after this step can you evolve the small array into a big array." Guan Qingyan nodded. "Then you can only familiarize yourself with them and use one or several arrays to the extreme. Only then can you know which ones can be removed and which ones must be left." With that, Guan Qingyan began to draw an array. What he drew was a simple defense array. The lines were extending like cracks in a tortoise shell, but the speed was not fast. Guan Qingyan said, "I'm slow because I'm not a spirit gatherer. Look here, this crack in the array. In fact, I don't know what this crack should look like. I just let it form naturally." Han Fei was speechless. "Naturally? Can you draw this defense array?" Guan Qingyan nodded seriously. Thus, between heaven and earth, everything has its own rules. All uncertainties are actually contained in a certain certainty. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Sophistry. Guan Qingyan said, "You are a spirit gatherer. You should be most familiar with spirit gathering arrays. Try it." Han Fei nodded. Without even moving his hands, a spirit gathering array appeared directly under Han Fei's butt. Guan Qingyan froze for a moment. So fast. How did you do it? The way you learn to be a spirit gatherer is wrong. Spiritual energy is both dead and alive. You can only guide it, not force it. By the way, have you learned the pupil technique? Guan Qingyan nodded. However, it's not easy to become a spirit gatherer. It's simple. I'll teach you later. Tell me what's wrong with my array first. Guan Qingyan said, "Your array is very good, but your array has no soul." Han Fei was lost for words. An array is an array. How can there be a soul? Do you think this is a spirit artifact? Guan Qingyan shook his head. I'm not talking about this. You drew the array very quickly and accurately, but you were too rigid. You can try to draw the formation a little slower. Then, when you feel that you can draw it however you want without causing the formation to fail, you can try letting the spirit qi escape on its own. Skeptical, Han Fei began to carve the spirit-gathering array in an extremely slow way that he had never imagined. When the eye of the array was established, Han Fei knew that the spirit-gathering array had been completed. Later on, even if he made a mistake, he could still correct it. Therefore, Han Fei no longer restricted the original method of carving arrays, no longer restrained and guided the spiritual energy, and let it run wild. Immediately, the spirit-gathering formation changed, and spirit qi that fluctuated between strong and weak gathered. Interesting. Old Guan, although you look a little cold, you seem to have some talent in drawing arrays. Guan Qingyan nodded. It's passed down from my ancestors. Look at you now, you are creating an array. Although it's only minimally invasive, it's also a kind of innovation. Han Fei was immediately amused, and then he felt dozens of perceptions sweeping over. However, Han Fei didn't care about them at all, because others couldn't understand it at all. After letting the spiritual energy flow, even Han Fei himself couldn't understand the array, let alone others. Han Fei thought for a moment. This Guan Qingyan was quite capable. According to his idea, he might really be able to create a new array. If Guan Qingyan became a spirit gatherer, then it might be much easier to discuss. Immediately, Han Fei said, "Don't you want to become a spirit gatherer? I'll teach you." Everyone wake up. It wasn't until a heavy shout came from the sky that Han Fei and Guan Qingyan stopped discussing. Last night, Han Fei was going to lie there with Xia Shaochan and watch the stars. As a result, Guan Qingyan, the cold-faced man, came over and untimely asked Han Fei about the relationship between arrays, spirit gatherers, and refining. Originally, Han Fei wanted to send this guy away. However, Guan Qingyan drew a killing array for Han Fei to demonstrate. Although it was slow, he succeeded and immediately attracted Han Fei's attention. This almost made Xia Shaochan die of anger. And Guan Qingyan naturally had his own purpose. He wanted to learn Han Fei's methods as a spirit gatherer. After all, Han Fei's spiritual energy manipulation methods amazed him. Therefore, Guan Qingyan exchanged his understanding of arrays with Han Fei. In this way, the two could discuss arrays for a whole night. The two of them benefited greatly from this discussion. In the morning, Xia Shaochan yawned and said, "You should use the night to sleep, not to cultivate." Han Fei said, "Then next time, I'll set up a small tent for you." In the sky, dozens of fishing boats were suspended in midair. An 8-star powerhouse that no one seemed to know was standing on the bow of the boat, glancing at everyone indifferently. "First of all, congratulations to you. You are the best group of all the newcomers on the Scattered Stars Island in the past 6 months." As he spoke, the 8-star powerhouse suddenly released his aura. This pressure was not weak, and Han Fei felt as if he had met a peak-level hanging fisher head-on. Of the more than 300 people on the Sea God Square, only one person was shocked and took a step back. Immediately, the 8-star powerhouse said to the man, "You can go." The man was a little dumbfounded. He had waited here all night, only to hear this person say a few words and release his pressure, and he was driven away? The man immediately blushed. 300 people. Was he the only one who felt fear just now? The man didn't dare to stay any longer. He immediately controlled the fishing boat and flew out of the sea god square. The 8-star powerhouse continued, "My name is Zheng Chaojie, but you don't have to remember my name. You just need to know that I am Adjudicator Zheng. This time, I will take you to experience the battlefield on the periphery of the Scattered Stars Island. Of course, today you need to fight a very dangerous battle with a casualty rate of more than 30%. All the survivors will be promoted from 3-star to 4-star, and 4-star will be rewarded with extra points. Or you can choose to leave. Those who leave will be rewarded with 100,000 points. More than 30% casualty rate? Many people looked solemn. All the people who came here today were geniuses. What kind of battle was it that could kill more than 30% of so many geniuses? Some people were horrified, while others felt that this was an opportunity to prove themselves and show their faces in front of the adjudicator. The so-called adjudicator was actually just a title. Among the 8-star powerhouses, some were brigadier generals, who were good at commanding. Some were kiliarchs, who were good at fighting. Some were adjudicators, who were the most powerful and could be regarded as the finale. Since this person called himself adjudicator, it meant that this person was extraordinarily strong. Chao Qiu was about to say that he was going to leave, when 2 hands were put on his shoulders. Wang Zitian raised 1 hand. Han Fei raised 1 hand. "You have so many poisons. What are you afraid of?" Adjudicator Zheng glanced at Chao Qiu and said, "Since no one wants to quit, then get on the fishing boat. Seeing is believing no matter how much you say." Hundreds of fishing boats followed Adjudicator Zheng's fishing boat and quickly flew to the south of the Scattered Stars Island. With the adjudicator leading the way, the fishing boat was fast. In less than half an hour, they had already left the sea. After more than 500 kilometers away from the sea, the first thing Han Fei and the others discovered was that a large number of birds were hovering in the sky. When Han Fei scouted the coast before, he had seen flocks of birds. However, those birds didn't fly low. They flew directly over the high sky and flew into the deep sea. At this moment, Han Fei and the others discovered something. There was more than one kind of bird here. There were as many as dozens of species of birds. Some birds were in large numbers, some were in groups of dozens, some were hovering alone, and some were flying close to the sea. Everyone's eyes swept to the bird flying close to the sea. In their field of vision, there was a big bird with a wingspan of 7 or 8 meters. This bird was extremely fast. When flying on the sea, everyone could see its wings cutting through the air, leaving white marks. On the surface of the water, wherever the bird passed, it would leave a long trail of water. Plop. At that moment, no one saw how this bird entered the sea, only the splash. In the next second, a shadow broke out of the water. On the sharp claws of that big bird, a flying fish more than 3 meters long, soared up and flew straight into the sky. Han Fei felt his scalp go numb. This thing is not a bird at all. It's even more ferocious than a fighter jet. Before the cultivators realized what was going on, it had already grabbed the fish and flew into the sky. The many strong masters in front didn't explain, nor did they bother to explain. In their opinion, when Han Fei and the others grew up, they would naturally know, and there was no need to explain anything to these young people. Soon, the sea of thousands of kilometers passed. Everyone looked down and could see inferior manfish skimming out of the water from time to time. Some of the more stupid ones would even stand on the water with harpoons, swaggering at the fishing boats passing by in the sky. After another 300 kilometers, they saw thousands of half-mermaids, red demons, and inferior manfish waiting on the sea in the distance. The half-mermaid at the front was wearing a golden battle suit, holding a golden harpoon, and under him was a crab more than 100 meters long, whose pincers were as thick as the stone wall on a cliff. There were also half-mermaids, some standing on the back of sharks, some standing on the head of jellyfish, and some standing on the shell of lobsters. They seemed to be going to war with humans. A large group of red demons stood on their side, followed by the inferior manfish, lined up in the sea like guards. At this time, everyone could clearly see a huge crack here. Above the crack, the color of the seawater was dark blue, which was completely different from the seawater in other places. Adjudicator Zheng said, "Remember this place. This is the beginning of your trial on the Scattered Stars Island. This place is called Heaven Human Strait." A 7-star hidden fisher added, "Remember, in this battle, you must cooperate with each other. Don't panic. Only after you pass this test will you be geniuses. If you can't pass this test, you are nothing." The third chapter? Asking for votes. After these 3 chapters, the plot will be relatively compact and rich from tomorrow onwards. I need both monthly votes and recommendation votes. If you want to explode, just wait for the votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 660. The human beings and the sea demons seem to have made an agreement on this side of the Heaven Human Strait. At this moment, there were strong masters on both sides, and they didn't intend to take action for the time being. When Han Fei and the others landed on the sea, the red demons and inferior manfish on the opposite side all moved. The half-mermaid standing in the front roared, and the movement behind it slowly disappeared. Adjudicator Zheng said, "Listen, we won't attack you today, and the other side's strong masters won't attack you either. So, it's up to you whether you can survive or not." Luo Xiaobai suddenly said via voice transmission, "There are insects in this strait." Lu Renquang said, "I hate insects the most." Han Fei was also perceiving at this moment, but he found that this strait seemed to be controlled by an invisible force, and his perception couldn't penetrate it at all. Han Fei responded, "Xiaobai, are you sure? I can't perceive it." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes, perception doesn't work. I perceive it through spiritual plants, but there are very few spiritual plants there, so I can't see clearly." Zhang Xuanyu asked, "Then are we going to fight the insects or those on the opposite side?" Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei. "The inferior manfish and half-mermaids have come out. Do you think there will be a human-like creature?" Han Fei thought of Mo Qianshang whom he met in the level 3 fishery and shook his head slightly. "I don't think so. But we still have to be careful. Don't let strangers get close." Someone asked, "Master, are we going down?" Adjudicator Zheng didn't respond but looked at the opposite side and shouted, "I wonder how many sea demon heavenly talents you are going to send to die this year." On the opposite side of the sea, the leading half-mermaid was shining with golden light. The sun shone on him, making him look extremely dazzling and golden. He said in a hoarse voice, "You think too highly of your human heavenly talents." Adjudicator Zheng laughed aloud. "Heavenly talents of the human race are invincible. How can you stinky fish and shrimps compare to us?" "I hope you can still say that later." The half-mermaid on the opposite side stretched out its harpoon, and in an instant, hundreds of inferior manfish and red demons directly sank into the sea and rushed to the Heaven Human Strait. Chao Qiu followed Han Fei. "Why do they have so many people? We only have 300 people." Behind Adjudicator Zheng, someone said to everyone, "Remember, no matter what, you can't lose. If you lose, a world-shaking war will break out between the human race and the sea demons within 3 days. Everyone who survives will be rewarded." Someone reminded, "Remember to protect the spirit gatherers. There is no team in this battle. It's just about winning. Spirit gatherers, don't be stingy with your spiritual energy. Anyone who lacks spiritual energy must be supplied. Also, don't use spirit fruits if you don't have to. Display your strongest strength." Han Fei looked back at Chao Qiu. "Remember, Poison God, get ready." Han Fei frowned slightly. 300 versus 800, and he couldn't use spiritual fruits. Lu Renquang suddenly said, "Don't you think this is like a competition for resources between villages?" Zhang Xuanyu was confused. "But if we can't beat them and all die inside, won't the Scattered Stars Island feel sorry?" Luo Xiaobai said, "There's no reason for us to lose this battle. There don't seem to be many people from the 36 towns who came this time. Looking at their waist tags, few of them have 3-star badges. From this, It can be seen that there are not many weaklings among the people who came this time. They are all elites of the younger generation. Lu Renquang said, that doesn't mean we can win. There are red demons on the other side. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Those red demons are only more talented than the inferior manfish, but their strength is still far from that of a hidden fisher. I'm afraid that there are red demons comparable to peak-level hanging fishers among them. That will be difficult to deal with. Before they said anything, Adjudicator Zheng shouted, everyone, enter the Heaven-Human Canyon. The seal will not be lifted within half an hour. Kill them and come back alive. Let's go. In the crowd, Yang Diu raised his double axes high and jumped directly into the sea. Immediately afterward, many people jumped directly into the sea without saying a word. Chao Qiu shouted, Han Fei, protect me. Han Fei was speechless. I'm a fucking spirit gatherer. Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. How can you say that? Don't you have any shame saying that you are a spirit gatherer at this time? Guan Qingyan looked at Sun Mu and the others, then looked at Han Fei, and said to Mu Jia, Chao Qiu is most afraid of death. He has been following Han Fei and the others from the beginning. It must be because Han Fei and the others are strong. Let's follow them. Mu Jia said, but I feel that Sister Mo is also strong. Guan Qingyan asked, then why didn't Chao Qiu follow them? Mu Jia was also taken aback. Cowards are the most timid. At any time, he values his own safety more than anything else. Is Han Fei also good at fighting? Put him to him. The crowd jumped into the water one after another. Yang Diu, the madman, took the lead, and people in all directions behind him began to accelerate. Someone said to everyone via voice transmission, let's rush into the seal first and then fight. Luo Xiaobai said to everyone via voice transmission, be careful of the cliffs and rocks on both sides of the canyon when fighting. There may be danger there. Luo Xiaobai said to Han Fei and the others via voice transmission, this is not a team battle. Let's put aside our personal grievances first. If I'm right, this battle is probably very important. Anyway, Han Fei didn't want to expose his full strength at this moment. After all, this battle came without any advance notice, no care, and no preparation. However, the people selected for this battle were based on the deeds of the newcomers who had entered the Scattered Stars Island in the past 6 months, which meant that everything on the Scattered Stars Island seemed to be paid attention to. This feeling was very bad. It was like someone had set up a camera in your home, and your whole life was exposed to others. It was impossible to say that you didn't care. The location of the Heaven-Human Strait was about 1,300 meters deep under the sea, and the bottom of the strait couldn't be seen from above. This reminded Han Fei and the others of the undersea stone forest where the rock-holding turtle was once sealed. Luo Xiaobai said, put on your battle suits. Han Fei, set up an array. As Han Fei swam quickly, he gathered spiritual energy, and in a moment, the 6 spirit armor appeared on the others. Chao Qiu said, me too. Mu Jia added, me too. Han Fei said, what's the hurry? We haven't arrived yet. Then Han Fei didn't hesitate to set up a defense array for each of them. On Guan Qingyan's side, a set of ultra-quality armor appeared on him, which was full of patterns and had its own arrays. Han Fei was stunned. Old Guan, when did you engrave this? Guan Qingyan replied, it took me a month to set up 2 defense arrays. They're not very strong. Han Fei was speechless. How could they not be strong? The armor had its own arrays. He didn't know how effective they were, but he had to pay attention to them later. When everyone rushed into the Heaven-Human Strait, Yang Diu and dozens of other people in the front had already started fighting with the red demons. Yes, the red demons. The first batch of people who came in were all fighting with the red demons. As a result, the battle was too intense. The seawater was rolling and the ripples were shaking. Everyone could only fight with their perception, which was extremely bad for their vision. Of course, there were also people who fought to the climax as soon as they came in. For example, Han Fei had already seen a death door descending from the sky, and the great void sword art had created thousands of sword shadows in the water. A red demon was besieged by 3 disciples of the major sections. At this moment, Its abdomen was pierced and half of its body was smashed. And in the battle, there was also a young man who seemed to be from the 36 towns. He clasped a knife with a chain and rolled up a knife chain tornado in the sea. However, 5 harpoons stabbed into his chain storm like lightning. 3 were blasted away, another cut off half of his arm, and the last one was inserted in his abdomen. He directly hit the cliff with the harpoon. When the man hit the cliff, he was not dead yet. But in the next moment, a large mouth that looked like a sickle suddenly appeared on the cliff. It was a gigantic sea centipede, and it directly dragged him into a cave on the cliff. Many people saw this scene, and someone said via voice transmission, "Don't get close to the cliff. Everyone, try to disperse. Too many people are not good for the battle." Someone said, "Armorous, pay attention to the surroundings. Pull out the battle line first." Someone said, "Manipulators, pay attention to the defense. Soul warriors, go to the front." On Han Fei's side, Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's swim deeper, attract some of them down, and fight separately." As Luo Xiaobai spoke, Xia Shaochan had already disappeared. Her body was like a shadow, and the 1,000-strike technique directly penetrated the 2 inferior manfish. Zhang Xuanyu directly used the instant mystic spear. A red demon launched a desperate attack, seeming to want to kill Zhang Xuanyu. With a crack, the 6 spirit armor was broken, and dozens of vines were planted in the void, trying to buckle the stabbing harpoon. Lu Renkuang reacted extremely quickly. There was no time for him to put up a shield, so he used the 4-level rushing thunder knife to block the attack for Zhang Xuanyu. The instant mystic spear was extremely fast, and it was Zhang Xuanyu's current peak attack. And the red demon seemed to be a level 47 creature. Although it was not a peak level 1, it was equivalent to an advanced hanging fisher. Zhang Xuanyu stabbed a big hole in its thigh, so its leg was useless. Han Fei swung the blood-drinking knife and jumped across the space, appearing directly in front of the red demon. A suit of armor suddenly appeared on the red demon's body, but the armor didn't block Han Fei's knife and was cut open with a big hole. At this moment, Xia Shaochan had already appeared in a flash and stabbed the red demon's neck. All of this happened in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. During the whole process, Chao Qiu and Mu Jia were both dumbfounded. Guan Qingyan dropped more than 30 ultra-quality spiritual weapons and had blocked at least 5 attacks for the 2 of them. Luo Xiaobai ordered, "Let's go down." First, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 661. The moment everyone entered the battlefield, the battle was already boiling. In less than 3 breaths of time, more than 10 people had fallen. Of course, these people were also extremely powerful. They had probably killed more than 50 sea demons. Han Fei and the others rushed down for about 500 meters. Rushing down with them were not only Guan Qingyan and the others, but also some people from the 7 major sects and some heavenly talents from the 36 towns. There were about 50 people in total. 50 people were quite a lot, and more than 100 red demons and inferior manfish were attracted. Among them, there were more than 20 red demons around Han Fei, including a half-mermaid. The scene was very chaotic. Many people were shouting, "Disperse, disperse!" Lu Renkuang slashed out with the armor art, and the torrents of knives and swords bought about 1 second for everyone. Luo Xiaobai went all out at this moment. When she came down from above, she had already set up countless vines. At this moment, within 500 meters of them, there were spiritual plants. In every direction, there were several vines spreading out. Guan Qingyan didn't seem to be very good at fighting. However, Guan Qingyan had a lot of ultra-quality spiritual weapons. At this moment, he was dealing with 5 inferior manfish by himself, and he defended himself like an iron bucket. It was not enough for Chao Qiu to arm himself to the teeth. He also attached the super defensive cloud dolphin to himself. After that, he had the poison sheath fish run out and spit all kinds of bubbles. At the same time, his spiritual beast, blazing fish, was spreading illusions. As for Mu Jia, just like Chao Qiu, she was also armed to the teeth. A set of exquisite female battle armor wrapped around her neck. Apart from her eyes, There was no part of her body that was exposed. Mu Jia threw out more than 50 top-grade longswords at once. These long swords seemed to have formed a sword array and were fighting against a red demon. Han Fei clicked his tongue. This was the benefit of being a refiner. They tossed out supreme-grade spiritual artifacts as if they were free, causing them to be surrounded by supreme-grade spiritual artifacts. Mu Jia and Guan Qingyan alone had thrown out more than 100 ultra-quality spiritual weapons, and all of them had sealed spirits. Han Fei took a look. These three people were simply three weirdos. If he were an inferior manfish or a red demon, he would never run to them. How was this a fight? He was clearly showing off his family's wealth. Suddenly, Han Fei sensed something and dodged sideways. A streak of red light brushed past his chest. In the next second, another 2 harpoons darted at him. However, it wasn't as strong as the previous one. Holding the whetstone, Han Fei slapped the 2 harpoons away with a brick. However, in the blink of an eye, he was surrounded by 2 inferior manfish and a red demon. The red demon was wearing a colorful armor, riding a fiery fish, and holding a spear. He stabbed at Han Fei. The corners of Han Fei's mouth rose. His body dodged in a strange posture, and with a backhand he used the draw technique. On the other side, how could the 2 inferior manfish expect that Han Fei would have time to attack them while fighting the red demon? As a result, the 2 mermaids were beheaded with a single slash. The red demon didn't even blink when 2 of his subordinates died. When he passed by Han Fei's 9-star chain had already buckled him. After beheading the 2 inferior manfish, Han Fei's next target was this red demon. Even if it was entangled, this red demon didn't seem to be worried. It seemed to know a special sea monster fighting technique. At the same time, it blocked Han Fei's attack position with 8 spears, trying to kill Han Fei with 1 blow. However, after seeing this scene, no one came to help Han Fei. Even Luo Xiaobai didn't use her vines to help at all, because she knew that this kind of attack was of no use to Han Fei at all. When the red demon attacked at close range, it had nowhere to run. Han Fei dodged 6 spears with a weird footwork, grabbed 2 spears with both hands, and quickly retreated. The red demon thought that Han Fei couldn't resist it, so it chased him with all its might. It also recalled a harpoon, ready to stab Han Fei to death. At this time, Zhang Xuanyu was also fighting with a red demon and an inferior manfish. Seeing that Han Fei was flying over, the red demon immediately gave up on Zhang Xuanyu and charged at Han Fei. It seemed that Han Fei was in a bad situation. However, those who were familiar with Han Fei were not worried. Only Mu Jia shouted to Han Fei, "Be careful, liar." Cao Qiu immediately rolled his eyes. "Silly Mu, don't let your sword formation leave me." Just as Mu Jia finished shouting, more than 30 blue sea wandering dragon daggers suddenly appeared beside Han Fei. Swish, the 10,000 knives in one appeared in a flash, and the 2 red demons were almost instantly pierced into sieves. It wasn't until this moment of death that they realized that this guy did it on purpose. Zhang Xuanyu's instant mystic spear had already pierced through the inferior manfish in front of him, and he didn't forget to say to Han Fei, "Thank you, brother." After about 10 minutes, the battle stabilized. The previous battle was too chaotic, resulting in dozens of people dying at the beginning. During this time, the sea monsters rushed forward desperately. They didn't care about the casualties on their side at all and just wanted to kill the human in front of them. But at this moment, the human side had already set up various formations. Many people gradually dispersed in the battle. Everyone helped each other. Although the battle was still fierce, it was no longer easy for them to die. At this time, Luo Xiaobai said via voice transmission, "Something is wrong. These sea monsters are not as strong as we thought. Han Fei, inject spiritual energy into everyone. I think something will happen later." Seeing that no one needed his help, although most people were dealing with 2 or even 3 creatures, Han Fei didn't need his help. But in fact, only the red demons were difficult to deal with, and the inferior manfish were actually not difficult to deal with. And the number of red demons was actually only about 300. In the confrontation just now, no less than 50 of them died. Therefore, even though the battle seemed to be thrilling, it wasn't that urgent anymore. Hearing Luo Xiaobai's words, Han Fei immediately set up a spirit-gathering formation, pointed his fingers, and first injected spiritual energy into Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renquang. After all, these two consumed the most spiritual energy. At the same time, Han Fei shouted to Mu Jia, and Guan Qingyan, "Don't throw so many weapons out. It's a waste of spiritual energy. Save some." Chao Qiu had already put away his blazing fish and poisonous bubble fish. This guy is the smartest. Anyway, I can't hit the enemy, so I just don't fight. Mu Jia's face was a little pale. This was the first time she had encountered such a crazy battle, so it was inevitable that she used too much strength. Seeing that she was exhausted, Han Fei also injected a pillar of spiritual energy into her, which helped her recover a little. However, at the moment when Han Fei used the spirit-gathering art, 3 red demons directly besieged Han Fei from 3 directions. Not only Han Fei, but other spirit-gatherers who used the spirit-gathering art were also besieged at this moment. It seemed that these sea demons were targeting the spirit-gatherers. Immediately, Luo Xiaobai said, "Han Fei, after you finish, help the others. The others, stop unnecessary consumption and start to group up in a small area." Not only Luo Xiaobai realized this, but many people also realized that something was wrong. Yang Diu was the craziest, and the range of his voice transmission was the widest. "Where are the sea demons? Why don't they come to fight me? Are you afraid of being killed by me?" Han Fei immediately understood the intentions of these sea demons. Just now, he also felt something was wrong. Why were these sea demons weaker? It turned out that these sea demons were also fighting for a purpose. At this moment, although some sea demons were fighting desperately, their goal was to kill the spirit gatherers among the human beings. But some of the sirens disappeared. Han Fei chuckled. Instead of continuing to use the 10,000 knives in one, he withdrew the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and faced the 3 red demons alone. If these red demons were above level 50, Han Fei would never fight them head-on. However, among these 3 red demons, the highest level was only level 48, and none of them was at the peak level, so Han Fei was not afraid of them. Among these 3 red demons, one was riding a blazing firefish with a phantom of an axe on its body, and the other had fused with a sailfish companion spirit. The 3 blazing attacks attracted the attention of many people. However, Han Fei just stood still in the water, and the seawater in front of him suddenly rolled up countless water blades. When the 2 sides were less than 100 meters away from each other, Han Fei quickly retreated. Mu Jia said, "Why is no one helping him? Those are 3 red demons." Chao Qiu's lips trembled. "It's okay. He used poison." Mu Jia asked, "What poison? I didn't see him use poison." 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. When one of the red demons coughed out, Han Fei immediately stopped retreating and activated the draw technique. With invincible fighting intent, he drew out a huge blade tens of meters long. Puff! The 3 red demons didn't even have time to react and were directly chopped up by Han Fei. Including their companion spirits, this time, they were all rolling. The chopped red demons didn't die immediately. Half of their bodies were still vomiting and tossing. Han Fei stroked the blood-drinking knife and stomped on the ground, twice, thrice. One spirit-gathering array after another appeared. He was drawing a large spirit-gathering array. Han Fei didn't dare to let Master Hexagon do it. After all, there were 8-star powerhouses watching outside. He didn't know if Master Hexagon's help would attract others' attention. The Hexagon starfish didn't dare to move either. As if falling into a deep sleep, it hid on Xia Xiaochan's calf and didn't move at all. Han Fei said to the others via voice transmission, "Those who can hear, hurry up and recover immediately. Something is wrong. You must recover as soon as possible." Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 662. Very few manfish succeeded in killing spirit gatherers. Human beings were not fools. Once a spirit gatherer died, Once his spiritual energy was exhausted, he could only eat things like spiritual fruits and spirit-refilling pills. However, after taking spiritual fruits, the spiritual energy in his body would be in a state of turbulence. Even if he could fight, his combat power would decline due to the turbulence of spiritual energy. But spirit gatherers were different. They sent spiritual energy directly into their body, which was like their own and could be used however they wanted. After the last red demon was beheaded, the crowd gathered in groups of 3 to 5. At this time, many people with good judgment and commanding ability emerged one after another, trying to control the situation. Someone immediately said, "All teams, gather." But someone immediately retorted, "No, if we charge again, the battle will be too intense. How can we fight?" Someone shouted, "Count the casualties." Someone retorted, "Count the casualties? Now it's time to think about how to deal with the sneak attack of the sea demons." In the battle just now, the enemy's casualties were definitely no more than 300. For a time, many people wanted to be the commander. They believed that Adjudicator Zheng, who was outside, must know the situation underwater and must be paying attention to them at this moment. At this time, if they stood out, they would only get more and more benefits in the future. Among all the people, Han Fei looked calm. He informed Luo Xiaobai, "Don't talk. Don't give orders." Han Fei had already set up dozens of spirit-gathering arrays. In his perception, those sea demons were swimming to the other side of the canyon, and the enemy's main force was gathering. In Han Fei's perception, there were 6 half-mermaids leading the team, less than 200 red demons following them, and the rest were about 300 inferior manfish. Han Fei said to Luo Xiaobai via voice transmission, "Wait, the enemy has swum 20 kilometers away. I don't know what they are going to do." Luo Xiaobai frowned. "There are no spiritual plants there. I can't perceive them." "How far can you perceive them?" Han Fei paused. "More than 20 kilometers. Luo Xiaobai was shocked and looked at Han Fei in astonishment. Even as calm as she was shocked by the number Han Fei said. Luo Xiaobai asked calmly, "What are they doing?" Han Fei replied, "All of them have gathered, about 500 in number. 6 of them are half-mermaids, less than 200 red demons, and the rest are all inferior manfish." Wait, they stopped. Han Fei's eyes suddenly turned cold, and the 6 half-mermaids turned around with their team. At this moment, the half-mermaids and the red demons and inferior manfish behind them formed an all-shaped array, facing the direction of the human beings. Also, in his perception, all the half-mermaids, red demons, and inferior manfish had summoned their associate spirits. All kinds of companion spirits were ferocious, as if they were about to jump out at any moment. Han Fei's face immediately changed. "Not good, they've summoned their companion spirits. They're going to charge, a long-distance charge." Luo Xiaobai's face immediately changed, and she spoke to everyone telepathically, "Everybody, gather. I just sensed that the half-mermaids, with red demons and inferior manfish, are about to launch a long-distance charge at us from 20 kilometers away. Everyone listen to my command and assemble. Armorous, stay in the front and activate torrents of swords and knives." Someone immediately retorted, 20 li away? How would you know? I'm afraid he wants to be the boss. Xiao! A flashing spiritual energy arrow pierced the air and shot at the person who had just spoken. The person was horrified because this spiritual energy arrow contained too much spiritual energy. 6,400 points of spiritual energy were gathered in this arrow. Was the archer crazy? However, this person's strength was not weak either. The spear in his hand suddenly shot forward, rolled up a water dragon, and swept directly at Han Fei's arrow. Bam! At the moment when the spear touched the spiritual energy arrow, it exploded. That was an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, but this person exploded it without saying a word, blocking Han Fei's arrow. In this way, although he would also suffer a backlash from the explosion, it was better than taking this arrow head-on. "How dare you attack me at this time?" Han Fei put down the wandering dragon bow and said coldly, "What a mess. If you refute me again, I will kill you on the spot." Many people from the 7 major sects couldn't help but smile bitterly when they heard Han Fei's words. Han Fei was a bit inhuman when he was domineering. Immediately, Gong Yuehan of the Jade Fairy Palace shouted, "Listen to the command. Armorists, go to the front." Immediately afterward, Chu Sun of the Grand Void Academy shouted, "Listen to the command." Although the Grand Void Academy was badly tricked by Han Fei in the level 3 fishery. However, in terms of strength alone, Chu Sun and the others were convinced. If they couldn't beat Han Fei, they couldn't beat him. Besides, Han Fei was so domineering at this moment, which must be because they found something. In this situation, the guy who was almost killed by Han Fei immediately gritted his teeth and could only choose to obey the order. Otherwise, he felt that Han Fei might really kill him. Judging from the arrow just now, Han Fei was very strong. A spiritual energy arrow made him explode his weapon. Who knew if Han Fei had other means? Seeing that Han Fei had stabilized the situation, Luo Xiaobai immediately led everyone to gather and then said, "The torrents of knives and swords released by the armorists will be dispersed immediately. Next, all spirit gatherers, the first thing you should do is not to escape, but to cast healing techniques. Once is enough." Also, those soul warriors who have learned Bao skills, move behind the armorists. Immediately, 37 soul warriors stepped forward. Since they had chosen the profession of soul warriors, they were all courageous. When a battle soul master used a battle Bao technique, his strength was ferocious, and he could be considered as a minor in long-range combat. At present, there were less than 300 people in total, but 37 soul warriors had learned Bao skills, and this was the situation that more than 40 people had died. At this time, someone immediately asked Luo Xiaobai, "Why doesn't the guy next to you come?" Someone looked at Han Fei, obviously meaning, "Don't think about using others as cannon fodder." Han Fei sneered, "If you want to go ahead with me to set traps, you don't have to go. Go ahead alone." Many people were dumbfounded. "Are you fucking crazy? There are at least more than 500 enemies. You go ahead alone to set traps? Are you out of your mind?" Han Fei suddenly frowned. "Xiaobai, I'll leave this to you. They are moving." "Zhang Xuanyu, come with me." Zhang Xuanyu looked dumbfounded. He had been waiting to listen to the arrangement, but he didn't expect that he would be called by Han Fei. Immediately, Zhang Xuanyu grinned. As expected of his brother, he would take him with him even at the risk of his life. With a swish, Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu left the team and rushed forward at the fastest speed. Luo Xiaobai's expression immediately changed. "The other party has taken action. All hunters, heed my command. All hunters, hide yourselves in the air. Even if there is a collision below, don't come to support. I want you to keep an eye on the other party's 6 half-mermaids. They must die as soon as possible." Luo Xiaobai hesitated. "Manipulator," in the front, Zhang Xuanyu said, "Fei, what are we doing? The two of us are going to kill 500 enemies? Although it's very brave, I don't think the chance of survival is high." Han Fei was speechless. "Are you an idiot? You want to die, but I don't. Stop 1,000 meters ahead." Han Fei immediately threw out dozens of kilograms of poison god and then said to Zhang Xuanyu, "Come on, use the 9-layered waves in Furious Sea instead of the instant mystic spear to disperse these poisons." Zhang Xuanyu's face turned green. Of course, he knew what poison it was. Was it the extremely terrifying Poison King? Zhang Xuanyu didn't know that the Poison King had been upgraded to Poison God. However, Han Fei wasn't going to tell him now. Han Fei said, "The other party will arrive in at most 5 minutes. What do you think?" Zhang Xuanyu screamed and hit the water with his rod. Suddenly 1 ripple, 2 ripples, 3 ripples. When the ripples broke out, Zhang Xuanyu and Han Fei had already turned around and ran back. Because at this time, they had already felt the vibration of the water. While running, Zhang Xuanyu said, "This is really fucking exciting. Is this a trial?" "There must be a trial." Han Fei was speechless. Why did so many people die in a trial? So many talents definitely didn't die in vain. There must be another reason. Zhang Xuanyu said, "I don't care what the reason is. I have to find a way to become a 6-star slaughterer as soon as possible when I go back." At that time, I can regain my freedom and go to sea freely. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. I think so too. We don't belong to an ordinary garrison team. Han Fei's face changed. Run, damn it, they are accelerating. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. They can accelerate? After a few minutes, Han Fei saw that the sea area of a full kilometer was full of vines. Zhang Xuanyu asked, "Can you block them?" Han Fei said, "Of course not. However, we can block as much as we can. The group of mermen behind us all have poison on them." On Luo Xiaobai's side, Lu Wei of the Death Door sect was in the front with his 4 brothers. However, they were not afraid. Although the blocking power of the 3 death doors couldn't stop the charge of so many sea demons, it could buy them some time. Behind the Death Door sect, Chu Sun and Sun Mu of the Grand Void Academy were in the second echelon. Both of them were good at large-scale attacks. Chu Sun's 6 styles of Grand Void could turn his body into the sea, which was really powerful. As for Sun Mu, he had mastered the Immortal's slaying formation. Luo Xiaobai was very cautious not to arrange him to be the first. Bam, bam. When Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu appeared, everyone was startled. Luo Xiaobai immediately said, "Zhang Xuanyu, go to the back. Han Fei, go to the second echelon. Don't hide your million knife art. Just use it." Han Fei landed next to Sun Mu and glanced at him indifferently. "I really hope you will be killed." Sun Mu snorted. "I still want the sea token." Han Fei laughed. "As it happens, I'm also going to kill you." Third update, asking for votes. Keep asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. I'm saving them. End of this chapter. Chapter 663. Above the Sea. Behind Zheng Chaojie, someone smiled faintly. This year's newcomers are of good quality. Especially that Luo Xiaobai, her calmness is rare. Someone echoed, "Indeed, is that kid called Han Fei? This kid is hiding his strength. How is his real strength? However, this poison is not bad." Someone immediately laughed. Wasn't that poison created by Chao Qiu? However, Chao Qiu was a little timid. I'm afraid he can only do research in the Scattered Stars 6th unit. Someone frowned. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to bring Guan Qinyan and Mu Jia into this year's game of life and death? Someone shook his head. It's not inappropriate. Refining is not enough. Look at these 2 brats, they have no combat experience at all. They're really strong with ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Someone looked at Yang Diu and said, "The Yang family is full of lunatics. That kid is good at using the divine axe." In front of the crowd, Zheng Chaojie suddenly shouted at the half-mermaids opposite him, "Do you see that? How can you compare to the heavenly talents of the human race? You'd better discuss who you're going to send out. Don't be unable to bring out a person later." The leading half-mermaid snorted coldly. "Don't speak too early." In the Heaven-Human Canyon, Han Fei became serious. This fish tide was a bit terrifying. The opponents were too fast and too powerful. As expected, the spiritual plant jungle of thousands of meters couldn't stop them at all. At this moment, the seawater was blowing in their faces, getting more and more turbulent. In his perception, the army of 500 mermaids was like a sharp knife, launching a rapid charge. Luo Xiaobai suddenly shouted, "Battle bow skills, target the front. Tours. Spirit gatherers, replenish spiritual energy immediately." Swish, 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 streams of spiritual energy broke out of the water. In an instant, they passed by Han Fei and the others, like meteors in the night sky, drawing dazzling beams of light in the dark water. The first round of arrows was shot out, and the second round followed closely, less than a second apart. When these soul warriors shot the first arrow, the spirit gatherers had already begun to inject spiritual energy into the 37 people. As soon as the 2 rounds of arrows were shot out, Luo Xiaobai immediately said, "Echelon, open the death door and retreat." 3 lifeless doors. There were only 5 people in total. 15 giant doors descended from the sky, blocking everyone behind them. After releasing the Death Door sect, Lu Wei and the other 4 retreated. At this moment, the first round of arrows had pierced into the fish-tide army. However, the result was not satisfactory. Han Fei frowned. Only 7 people on the other side had been pierced, 6 of which were inferior manfish and only 1 red demon. The second round of arrows wasn't much better. 11 manfish were pierced. Only 2 of them were red demons, and the rest were inferior manfish. Luo Xiaobai naturally sensed all this clearly. However, she was unmoved and immediately said, Chu Sun, Sun Mu, and Han Fei, spread out. When the death door is attacked, launch an attack. The 3 of them dispersed, and everyone behind them was a little nervous. After a few breaths, someone would definitely die. At this moment, their lives were in their hands. How could they not be nervous? Chao Qiu was the most nervous one. This guy was hiding in the back. He didn't care what the adjudicators above thought. His life was more important. Anyway, hiding in the back was the safest. Luo Xiaobai couldn't do anything to him. In fact, even if Chao Qiu was in the front, it would be useless. This guy couldn't fight and could only sneak attack. He was useless. Thud, 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 thud. All of a sudden, a strong wave of water hit him in the face. The power was like a shocking tsunami. And this was because the Death Door sect was in front of them. If there were no obstacles, even a junior hanging fisher might not be able to resist this wave of pressure. Bam, bam, bam. The first of the 3 death doors was broken in an instant. The second one didn't last much longer than the first one, and only the third one blocked the attack for about a second. And when the fish tide hit the Death Door sect, Chu Sun retreated to the armorist's row, staring angrily. Great Void Sword, turn into a sea of swords. Sun Mu also retreated to the armorist's position. Immortal guides the way. Red light shines everywhere. 108 swords shot out, and the Immortal Slaying Sword Array was activated. Han Fei also glanced at this time. This Immortal Slaying Sword Array had become stronger. Han Fei had experienced the first move of the Immortal Slaying Sword Qi. In the face of such a strong fish tide, it was obviously useless. This time, Sun Mu launched the Immortal Guides the Way. Han Fei felt a trace of sword intent from the sword Qi. This bastard actually comprehended sword intent. Han Fei's side was also terrifying. He did not retreat. The 10,000 blades returning to origin did not need to retreat. This was a battle skill that could kill anyone in a crowd. Swish, swish, swish. 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers flew out, all ultra-quality spiritual weapons with sealed spirits. In the rear, many people were so shocked that their eyes popped out. Their impression of Han Fei was only the power of the arrow just now. But now it seemed that he was also a fucking big shot. Mu Zhe's eyes widened and she exclaimed, "He can control 99 daggers at once?" Guan Qingyan's eyelids twitched. What a strong spiritual power. A powerful spirit gatherer is really extraordinary. Not only the people in the Heaven Human Canyon were surprised. On the sea, someone also said in surprise, "This kid, when did he forge and seal spirits in his own weapons?" 99 daggers, even more than Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia? Someone was stunned. Is this kid practicing the million knife art? That thing requires extremely high spiritual power, and the more weapons, the better. 99 daggers are not a lot, but does he have enough spiritual power? Someone pondered for a while and couldn't help but ask curiously, "It seems that the most powerful person who has practiced the million knife art can control more than 1,000 daggers, right?" Someone nodded. Yes, to be precise, 1,200 daggers. That thing can be used by one person. The Death Door really bought time for everyone. Although it was only less than 2 seconds, this was an army that was sprinting crazily. Blocked by the Death Door, their advantage in speed was almost lost. It was like a galloping cavalry that encountered a tripwire and lost their advantage in speed. What was the difference between them and infantry? Immediately, Han Fei rushed in. However, Han Fei didn't use any secret methods. So after he rushed in, the advantage of the 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers was gone. Although the million knives in one was still impressive. Like a dragon coiling around his body, the knife light rolled up and shadows followed him. As soon as he entered the group of half-mermaids, Han Fei directly slaughtered them. In a flash, more than 30 people were killed or injured. Following Luo Xiaobai's voice transmission, all the armorists took action, and a torrent of knives and swords poured out. It was really a sea of knife light and sword shadows, thousands of them. Bam! Like two turbid currents converging, the two sides directly rushed together. Blood, like gorgeous flowers, bloomed in the deep sea. At that moment, all kinds of flashy combat skills were thrown out as if they were free. The spirit gatherers couldn't keep up with the speed of spiritual energy channeling. The 6 leading half-mermaids were instantly attacked by more than 40 hunters at the moment they stopped moving. In just one round of assassination, 5 were directly killed, and the last one was only left with a broken body. Bam! Suddenly, the half-mermaid blew itself up. The terrifying power directly killed 2 hunters next to it. There were still 3 hunters who managed to escape in time, but they were also heavily injured. As the half-mermaid blew itself up, the inferior manfish also began to blow themselves up. Luo Xiaobai's face changed drastically. Manipulators, take the spirit gatherers away from the battlefield. If you have secret methods, all use them. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices. However, Luo Xiaobai's command was a little late after all. Just because of a mistake, nearly 30 people died in the self-explosion. Han Fei went all out and activated the majestic mystic spell, which doubled the lethality. However, even so, he still didn't use his full strength. In Sun Mu's Immortals slaying formation, a large number of inferior manfish were beheaded after the red light flashed. As for Chu Sun, his body had long exploded, and he was also seriously injured. He was dragged away from the battlefield by the manipulators. The ones who suffered the least losses were the manipulators, armorists, and hunters. The soul warriors and spirit gatherers suffered heavy casualties. The entire battlefield had been surrounded by spiritual plants, and the manipulators were fighting desperately at this moment. They were the ones who controlled the overall situation. From the first self-explosion, many people knew that things were bad. Luo Xiaobai's face was pale. She summoned a massive amount of illusionary god grass with the grand spirit summoning technique, intending to stop the self-explosion of the mermaids through the hallucinogenic effect. She had to admit that it worked. Unfortunately, Luo Xiaobai's strength alone was really limited and she couldn't control such a large battlefield. Fortunately, the people selected this time were not ordinary people. Therefore, after the continuous self-explosion sounded, those who should have left the battlefield had already left the battlefield. Among the inferior manfish, a dozen rushed to Han Fei and blew themselves up. However, these inferior manfish had no idea how strong Han Fei's physique was. Therefore, after they blew themselves up for a long time, they found that Han Fei was still killing them. So 7 or 8 red demons aimed at Han Fei and launched a suicidal charge. Not only for Han Fei, but also for Luo Xiaobai, Sun Mu, Guan Qingyan, and the others. A large number of red demons rushed over, trying to kill them. In the eyes of these inferior manfish, only these people were the real strong among this group of humans. Killing one of such people was worth it. However, at the same time, such people were the least likely to die. Even Chu Sun, who had been seriously injured, could still hold 3 red demons by himself with the great void sword art. At this moment, Han Fei suddenly shouted frantically, "Leave the battlefield, everyone leave the battlefield. Something is wrong with the cliff. Find a safe water area." Hearing Han Fei's shout, many people were shocked. During the battle, they didn't notice it, but at this moment, when they scanned with their perception, they found that densely packed insects had emerged from the cliffs on both sides of the Heaven-Human Strait. Centipedes, scorpions, relatives of the mess-swallowing worm, multi-legged worms, shrimp groups. Besides, these insects had already caught a lot of people, including humans and sea demons. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 664. At the end of the battle, the sea demons had all been killed or wounded. It wasn't until this moment that everyone realized that these 800 sea demons didn't want to go back alive at all. The meaning of their existence was to kill one of them, and if they could kill two of them, it would be worth it. All of this made Han Fei and the others shudder. What kind of race is this? Are they all not afraid of death? Some of the strongest combat forces of human beings were rushing to rescue people, appearing on the cliffs on both sides. Just now they were fighting sea demons, and now they were fighting with insects. Even so, only 7 or 8 people were saved. Fortunately, those insects actually came out to attack the dead or wounded people or sea demons. As for the others who still had combat power, they just tried for a while and then gave up. When the last person was rescued, everyone gathered together. Han Fei scanned and found that there were only 196 people. In other words, in this battle, 104 people died on the human side. Han Fei couldn't help but be moved by this number. None of the people who came back this time were weak. For example, the guy who was shot by him just now could block the 6th arrow of the War Soul archery technique, which was already extremely strong. When he was still a junior dangling fisher, the 6th arrow could already kill a peak-level dangling fisher. Now, he had surpassed a big realm, but he couldn't even kill a guy who was only one small level higher than him. And the other party was only slightly injured by the backlash. Someone as strong as this guy had lost 104 people in this battle. Han Fei couldn't accept it. They were inexplicably dragged into a fight and died inexplicably, and they didn't even know the reason. Besides, there were many big families from the Thousand Star City among them. Could it be that the big shots of the Scattered Stars Island really didn't care about the lives of the children of the big families from the Thousand Star City? At this moment, Han Fei felt angry and annoyed. How could this battle last half an hour? During the whole process, only half an hour had passed, and so many people had died. It was also this battle that made those who were still alive realize one thing. They had thought that the unknown place was less dangerous than they thought when they came. But after this battle, no one would think so. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on Luo Xiaobai and injected spiritual energy into her body. On the battlefield, manipulators didn't seem to be very useful. However, in the last scene just now, at least 50 people had been saved by manipulators. Luo Xiaobai's spiritual energy was almost exhausted, and her face was extremely pale. Han Fei scanned with his perception and his face changed slightly. Where's Chao Qiu? Han Fei glanced and found that Chao Qiu was gone, so he was a little anxious. Although this little fatty was timid and afraid of death, he was really good to his friends. Moreover, how could that guy die just like that? I'm here. Chao Qiu ran out of a hole in the cliff. Han Fei was speechless. Why the hell did you run into a hole? I can't even sense it. Chao Qiu seemed to be still in shock. I was blasted in by the explosion. Then he was dragged in by those damned bugs. Fortunately, my cute poison bubble poisoned them all to death. Otherwise, I would be in deep trouble. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. He didn't quite believe it. A red demon self-detonation can send you into the insect nest? Did you wear all your ultra-quality equipment for nothing? Zhang Xuanyu swam over in rags. Feifei, get me a few sets of clothes later. My second set is also broken. Han Fei said lightly, if they are broken, put them away and melt them again. Xia Xiaochan appeared next to Luo Xiaobai. Xiaobai, are you okay? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. I misjudged. I didn't expect them to explode collectively. It's not your fault. No one would have thought of it. Now it seems that these half-mermaids, red demons, and inferior manfish are actually all cannon fodder. Their purpose is to kill us. It seems that killing one more half-mermaid, red demon, and inferior manfish are actually cannon fodder. Feifei, I lost 23 weapons. What a loss. Lu Renkuang flew over slowly. Feifei. Han Fei rolled his eyes at him. You think I didn't notice you just now? Lu Renkuang rolled his eyes at him. Nonsense. I lost several ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Lu Renkuang was immediately anxious. I dropped several ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Lu Renkuang was anxious. Nonsense. I lost several ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Han Fei said gloomily, "Fine, fine, fine. You are all short of ultra-quality spiritual weapons." "I see." Upon hearing this, Lu Renquang and Zhang Xuanyu clapped their hands. Their goal was achieved. Hearing this, Lu Renquang and Zhang Xuanyu clapped their hands. Their goal was achieved. The seal was lifted. The insects in the Heaven-Human Canyon didn't swarm out because they couldn't beat them. Everyone's heart was heavy. No matter how many people in this group were friendly or hostile, when they fought against the sea demons together, it was a united front. 1/3 of them died because of this. The first thing Luo Xiaobai did when she came to the sea was to go directly to Zheng Chaojie and ask, "Why didn't you give any notice in advance of such a battle?" A hanging fisher questioning the adjudicator made many people's blood freeze. Even Han Fei and the others were stunned. Xiaobai really dares to fight back. However, since Luo Xiaobai had done this, Han Fei and the others naturally wouldn't let her go against the adjudicator alone. At this moment, all 5 of them stood in front of Zheng Chaojie. Zheng Chaojie said lightly, "Are you questioning me?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes." Zheng Chaojie was expressionless. "Are you sure?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. Immediately, someone said, "What a tough character. Old Zheng, what do you think?" Zheng Chaojie and Luo Xiaobai looked at each other for a moment and found that no one dodged his eyes, so he couldn't help but say, "They are really people trained by the Thug Academy. Their personalities have been passed on." Zheng Chaojie's expression suddenly turned serious as he said, "True growth has always started from death. Return to the team and get ready to continue fighting." He didn't explain. As an adjudicator, he disdained and wouldn't explain. Luo Xiaobai and the others didn't move. However, Zheng Chaojie waved his hand and threw them hundreds of meters away. Zheng Chaojie shouted, "Do you think this is the end? This is just the beginning. Everyone, get ready. The next part is the highlight." Zheng Chaojie didn't explain, but someone else did. A 7-star hidden fisher said telepathically, "We didn't inform you because we didn't want to give you a chance to prepare and let you feel that you can fight the strongest combat power when you're in your peak state. Why do we fight this battle? Because we fight every year. We want to let these sea demons know that there are strong people rising among the newcomers every year. Only in this way can we let them understand that there are countless heavenly talents among the human race. Once the human race is weak, you can imagine the result." Luo Xiaobai and the others were shocked. This explanation? They heard a hidden meaning. Humans are pretending? Immediately, someone said, "It's not that humans can't afford to fight, but we don't want to fight meaningless battles. Are we going to fight these damn stinky fish and shrimps to the death with the strength of our entire race?" Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but pull Han Fei's clothes. Han Fei nodded, indicating that he got it. The two of them had experienced the war in the undersea city and knew how tragic that battle was. The survival of human beings was squeezed to the extreme. Although the Scattered Stars Island was actually not a place where humans lived, the purpose of the people here fighting for resources was also for the growth of all the people under the 1,000-star city. Only in this way could there be more and more strong human beings. Luo Xiaobai accepted this explanation, so she stopped talking. Han Fei said with a sullen face, "There are a lot of half-mermaids coming from the opposite side. They look more and more like human beings." Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, "Huh! Why are these red demons and half-mermaids we met not so strong? But these ones are much more beautiful than those just now." On the opposite side, except for the more than 800 sea demons who had just died in the Heaven-Human Strait. At this moment, another batch of them appeared. But this batch, whether it was their body shape, face, or even the feeling they gave people was different. Demonic heritage. Han Fei immediately frowned. These newly appeared sea demons must have a strong demonic heritage. Han Fei finally found out. To judge whether a half-mermaid's demonic heritage was high or not, one only needed to look at its face. The better the face, the stronger its demonic heritage and the more outstanding its temperament was. In the group of half-mermaids, a male half-mermaid, wearing a silver-scaled battle suit and holding a crimson harpoon, came to the center of the formation of the two sides. The only thing that Han Fei didn't like was their lower body. Was that a fucking foot or a tail? It seemed to be using its tail as a foot. Human, do you dare to fight? This half-mermaid was only an intermediate hanging fisher, and his strength was unknown. However, the other side sent such a half-mermaid out to fight? Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Ha! It was a group battle just now. You found that you couldn't beat them in a group battle, so you changed to a one-on-one fight? On the human side, a soul warrior stepped on the water, and a big spider phantom condensed, running quickly on the sea with 8 legs. No matter how much you look like a human, you're just a fish. I'm from the Scattered Stars Island Pioneer Group. Lin Song, does your fish have a name? The half-mermaid looked at Lin Song with fiery eyes. I'm not qualified to give you a name, but I'll get one if I kill you. Haha. Lin Song laughed. Kill me? Behind, someone shouted, Lin Song, don't be careless. Since you sent him out, he must have some ability. Lin Song stretched out the 2 long thorns in his hands. I know, but so what? Do you think an intermediate hanging fisher can kill me? As Lin Song attacked, thousands of thorns flashed across the sky. And he himself, in an instant, used at least 5 combat skills. Footwork, thorns, claws, control. On the water, in addition to the thousands of thorns, there were also water blades setting off huge knife marks on the sea. Looking at the situation, even Han Fei had to admit that this person's strength was not weak and there were many commendable points about him. However, above the half-mermaid's eyebrows, a white flame suddenly jumped, as if a god was reviving. The glare between its eyebrows was extremely dazzling, making its whole body look quite sacred. Zhang Xuanyu's face changed. Watch out, it's a spiritual attack. Puff! Lin Song, who was rushing wildly, suddenly fell to the ground, bleeding from his eyes, nose, and mouth. The harpoon in the half-mermaid's hand cut through the water, leaving a huge shadow of the harpoon, and there were water columns glittering between the shadows. Lin Song was pierced by the harpoon, and his ultra-quality spiritual suit barely blocked this blow. However, it was full of cracks and almost disintegrated. At this moment, Lin Song had a splitting headache and blood was spilling. Suffering a spiritual attack, he was unable to fight anymore and was blasted back. Immediately, a manipulator caught him, and a spirit gatherer threw a healing technique on him. Immediately, someone shouted with an ugly face, "Not good, Lin Song's dantian has been shattered. He's crippled." Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 665. Seeing that Lin Song was crippled, some people immediately became angry. What was the difference between this and death? In the ocean world, perhaps only the lowest level fishers did not have much cultivation. When Lin Song woke up, he would probably feel that this was more painful than killing him. Immediately, a member of the Pioneer Group jumped out. Pioneer Group, Man Hai, you hurt my brother. Today I'll take your life. Man Hai was possessed by a serpent and held 2 sledgehammers. When the sledgehammers collided, the sound was ear-piercing and frightening. The half-mermaid still didn't move, pointing its harpoon at Man Hai with a provocative look. Man Hai roared, his eyes were red, and his body was burning with spiritual energy. This guy was actually burning his essence blood and spiritual energy to release a terrifying power. Clang. The 2 hammers were as powerful as Mount Tai, and the sound waves were rolling. The half-mermaid blocked the 2 sledgehammers with its harpoon and was blasted by Man Hai, sliding nearly 100 meters in the sea. Good. On the human side, a burst of cheers broke out. Man Hai's strength was formidable. This blow had definitely injured the inferior manfish. The white flame between the half-mermaid's eyebrows suddenly burst out with a dazzling light, as if to pierce Man Hai's mind. Oh! Man Hai roared, do you think the same trick will work on me? Divine Dragon Tail Whip. A huge serpent appeared, and its big tail swept across, causing the water surface to sink. God slaying. An extremely thin shadow suddenly shot out hundreds of meters into the sky. As for that light shadow, it seemed to have passed through Man Hai's head. Bam! The half-mermaid was whipped away by the serpent's tail, rolled dozens of times on the sea, and then managed to get up with difficulty. His physique was not weak at all. As for Man-Hai, he suddenly fell into the sea. After being dragged back, Man-Hai's eyes were dull. A hidden fisher glanced at him and shouted at the opposite side, "Good, good, good. What a good trick. A sea monster has learned soul combat skills. Very good." Immediately, a hidden fisher shouted, "Those who attack again, be careful. If you don't want to die, don't hide your strength at all. Kill the opponent in one fell swoop." Ah! Yang Du suddenly jumped out of the water and split the seawater apart with the heavenly axe in his hand. He roared, "Son of a bitch, you dare to cripple two humans in front of me? You must be tired of living." As soon as Yang Du appeared, everyone's attention was on him. Only Han Fei didn't care about it at all. He had been paying attention to the remaining half-mermaids on the other side. At the moment when Yang Du jumped out, 5 half-mermaids seemed to want to rush at him, but for some reason, they stopped. The half-mermaid who had already fought 2 rounds stood up again, and the white flame between its eyebrows flickered. Again! Yang Du was so angry that he laughed. "Hey, take my axe." A gigantic axe that was over 100 meters long slashed out with raging flames. The great axe had not yet arrived, but a huge axe mark had already appeared on the surface of the sea. Fuse. A big white fish suddenly appeared, and data appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Names: Hungong fish, companion spirit. Introduction: a fish with hard scales and extremely thick flesh that can resist the bombardment of creatures of the same level. It can emit advanced energy waves from the top of its head, which can attack the soul. Level 45. Quality: exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 5,812 points. Effect: long-term consumption can strengthen the body. Collectible: transverse scales, unabsorbable. With a swish, the half-mermaid's body was covered with a layer of white scales. On its head, there was even a single horn. Not only that, the white flame between its eyebrows suddenly enlarged dozens of times. Soul devouring. Opposite to the axe light was a huge white fish formed by a weird white mist. The white fish seemed to want to swallow Yang Du in one bite. However, Yang Du shouted, "2 axes to decide the universe." The first axe slashed at the half-mermaid, and the other party tried to resist it with its harpoon. Unfortunately, the harpoon, which was also an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, had been broken into 3 pieces at this moment. The scales on its body collapsed and it was dripping with blood, but this axe was blocked by it. The second axe was originally aimed at the big white mist fish. However, the axe light couldn't touch the big white fish at all, and the big fish directly bit at Yang Du through the axe light. "Hey, do you really think you can hurt me with a soul attack? Do you think you can protect the will of the god of war?" Yang Du laughed, and a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared behind him, and a golden god of war more than 50 meters tall holding 2 axes suddenly appeared. The giant opened its mouth and directly swallowed the big white mist fish into its abdomen. On the sea, the half-mermaid failed to resist Yang Du's second axe and was directly chopped into pieces. In terms of ferocity, even Han Fei had to admit the strength of this crazy Yang. He hadn't seen him for more than half a year, and this guy had become much stronger. Han Fei looked at the golden giant in astonishment. "What the hell is that? Where did it come from?" Luo Xiaobai explained, "Just like the knife intent, he has cultivated his fighting intent into a will. However, it shouldn't be comprehended by him, but through a visualization diagram." Han Fei frowned. Another visualization diagram? Han Fei had to think of his God-scaring painting. This was also a visualization diagram, right? However, he hadn't even memorized 1/10 of it. He didn't know if this God-scaring painting would also become such an awesome giant after he completely memorized it. But awesome! Yang Du chopped a heavenly talent among the sea demons with 2 axes. At this moment, holding a big axe, he pointed at the half-mermaids. "Come on, who else wants to come? The big axe in my hand can't wait any longer." On the half-mermaid's side, many people seemed to be quite surprised. Some wanted to fight but were held back. The leading half-mermaid on the opposite side shouted, "How about 10 people from each side?" Zheng Chaojie was waiting for this sentence. Geniuses were few and far between no matter which race they were in. After all, geniuses like Yang Diu were rare. Sending 10 people was exactly what he wanted. So, Zheng Chaojie snorted coldly. "As you wish. Let's see who else you can send." Then Zheng Chaojie glanced at the crowd. Yang Diu, Sun Mu, Mo Fian, Wang Zitian, Jing Changfeng, Ming Kuan, Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan, Zhao Lingjie, Zhou Haiying. The 10 of you fight. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were selected to fight, but Luo Xiaobai and the others were excluded. Of course, some people were injured and hadn't recovered, but this was not the only reason. Han Fei couldn't help but narrow his eyes. It seemed that there were really a lot of geniuses in the crowd this time. As for Ming Kuan and Jing Changfeng, Han Fei was a little confused. Ming Kuan is okay, but Jing Changfeng is a little worse, isn't he? After the human side decided on the candidates, 10 half-mermaids appeared on the opposite side. Perhaps because their evolution was slightly more complete, the half-mermaids with higher demonic heritage looked pretty good if they didn't open their mouths. However, Han Fei felt that they all looked the same. After the roll call, a hidden fisher reminded, "Don't underestimate your opponent. Go all out." Ming Kuan stood next to Han Fei. "Ha! Let's fight again when you have time?" Han Fei smiled. "Of course, anytime." Jing Changfeng was also defeated by Han Fei, but Jing Changfeng didn't intend to challenge Han Fei again. Because Han Fei seemed to be stronger than him in every aspect, and it was certain that he couldn't beat him. Yang Diu was still holding a big axe and shouting, "Come on, who's next?" Those half-mermaids seemed to be eager to fight. Immediately, a beautiful female half-mermaid walked out. Her weapons were not harpoons, but 2 copper hammers. Looking at the female half-mermaid in front of him, she was the second woman Han Fei had seen who used a pair of hammers as weapons. One was Xiang Zuozhua, and the other was this one. Yang Diu cursed, "Is there no one else? Come on, a woman? Get out of here or I'll chop you to death." The female half-mermaid didn't speak, but she suddenly raised her head. The whole sea surface surged, and under everyone's astonished gaze, a waterman climbed up from the water. When the waterman could fully stand up, it was 100 meters tall, holding 2 giant water-shaped sledgehammers in its hands, and stood behind the half-mermaid. Wow! Many people frowned. Damn, is this still a hanging fisher? Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. What were we fighting just now? If there were 100 sea monsters of this level, I'm afraid we might not have been able to defeat them just now. Chao Qiu said with a black face, "It's not big yellow croakers. How can there be so many? I guess there are only a few sea monsters with such aptitude." Mu Jia pulled Guan Qingyan and said, "If we refine such a large spiritual weapon and fuse it into our bodies, do you think it'll work?" The corners of Guan Qingyan's mouth twitched. "Impossible. We can't control it with spiritual power." Mu Jia asked, "What do you think if we capture a half-mermaid and seal it in?" Guan Qingyan shook his head. "Have you ever seen anyone seal a spirit with a half-mermaid?" Mu Jia nodded. "Then we can seal other creatures." Han Fei looked back at the two of them. "We should at least seal a legendary creature, right? But if we refine such a large spiritual weapon, will it still be a spiritual weapon?" When Han Fei heard Mu Jia's words just now, he was tempted. This thing didn't seem to be impossible. Why couldn't he refine a human-shaped weapon? It seemed to be a good idea to refine it and seal its spirit in it as a puppet. He had to admit that a refiner's brain was really good. Han Fei was tempted and was ready to give it a try when he went back. Of course, it should be impossible to refine such a large human-shaped spiritual weapon at the moment. First of all, the materials needed would be terrifying, and secondly, the spiritual energy consumed would probably be terrifying. However, in terms of materials alone, Han Fei didn't seem to be short of them. After all, Han Fei still had 2 fishbone pillars, 2 iron chains, and a 10,000-year-old big red trunk. He couldn't refine a 100-meter-long one, but a 10-meter-long one. Thinking about it, Han Fei couldn't help but grin. Xia Xiaochan elbowed Han Fei. What are you thinking about? Han Fei immediately came back to his senses. Oh, nothing. I just think that every race has a heavenly talent. This half-mermaid seems to be very strong. So chapter? Asking for votes. By the way, you said that you would save up the monthly votes. Now you have already saved up 3 chapters. End of this chapter. Chapter 666. Yang Diu himself was a little confused. His will of the god of war was less than 50 meters high. The golden light looked dazzling, but it was actually very weak. If he could defeat his opponent, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, at this moment, what the hell was the opposite side? A 100-meter tall waterman carrying 2 sledgehammers more than 20 meters long. Were all sea demons so fierce? Then what was he fighting in the Heaven-Human Canyon just now? However, as Crazy Yang Diu wouldn't stop. The big axes had already been slashed out. What if the man in the water was just putting on an act? On the opposite side, the eyes of the female mermaid had turned white, and the 100-meter tall giant also swung the sledgehammers. A battle of this level caused the hearts of the spectators to ripple. In this case, combat skills were not so important. The two seemed to be just competing in strength, but in fact, it was not. Everyone could feel that there seemed to be an inexplicable artistic conception between the two giants. Xia Xiaochan glanced at Han Fei. Does Yang Diu's axe carry a little of your invincible fighting intent? Han Fei shook his head. No, it seems to be, but no, there seems to be a kind of arrogance in it. But it doesn't feel domineering. I think he hasn't learned it well. Xia Xiaochan asked, what about that woman? I don't understand that. Is it because the artistic conception of sea demons is different from ours? Boom! Yang Diu was retreating, and huge waves were set off on the sea. Yes, in terms of strength, this guy was no match for the female mermaid opposite him. Han Fei turned his head and found that there was blood dripping from Yang Diu's hands. His face was already black and red. Looking at the female half-mermaid again, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, but then the second hammer was launched. Bim, him, him. The two fought 8 times in a row. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Yang Diu couldn't beat this female half-mermaid. Even if he tried his best, he seemed to be no match for her in terms of strength and perception. The mermaid's giant hammer blasted Yang Diu flying. The female half-mermaid had a slight advantage, but after 8 strikes, Yang Diu vomited a mouthful of blood and was defeated. Next to Han Fei, Ming Kuan and Jing Changfeng were already stunned. They had never seen such a fighting style before. This was not like a fight between hanging fishers at all, but more like a fight between hidden fishers, as if a huge wave could be set off casually. Yang Diu, who was defeated, felt very ashamed. He was defeated by a seemingly fragile female half-mermaid. If you were a man, I could still accept it, but a woman. Yang Diu looked at Han Fei at first, but he thought to himself, if Han Fei wins, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? Immediately Yang Diu shouted, Mo Fian, go kill this woman. Mo Fian's face turned green and she couldn't wait to step on Yang Diu's face. In this kind of competition of strength, the man would definitely be the one to go. Mo Fian looked at Han Fei and couldn't help giggling. Han Fei, are you willing to let a girl like me fight such a violent woman? Han Fei was about to join the fight. He wondered if Mo Fian's water dragon roar could defeat the opponent. But on his side, there were only 10 people. Yang Diu had already been defeated. According to his understanding of the other people, only he should be a match for this female half-mermaid in terms of strength. However, if Mo Fian could chat with Han Fei normally, maybe Han Fei would have joined the fight. However, Xia Xiaochan suddenly shouted, just do it. Isn't your water dragon very powerful? Han Fei is the last one. Han Fei? Mo Fian was speechless. Last one? In this situation, of course, she should be the first one to go and defeat the opponent's strength-type player first. However, Xia Xiaochan refused him once. If she refused again, it would seem that the human side was evading each other. Someone immediately said, go first. Any internal conflicts can be solved after the fight. Mo Fian bit the bullet and went up. At this time, she naturally knew that she couldn't let the human side down. Han Fei said, "The opponent is seriously injured. Fight hard. You can win. I believe in you." The corners of Mo Fian's mouth twitched, but the expression on her face became serious. Yang Du, that fool, was a lunatic. He knew that the opponent was a strength-type player, but he still insisted on fighting her head-on. And as a scheming woman, Mo Fian certainly knew that she should defeat the opponent's body as soon as possible. It had to be said that the battle between women was never a direct confrontation. After Mo Fian came on the stage, she directly merged into the water. Han Fei scanned her with his perception but didn't find her. The second time, Han Fei scanned her with the eyes of true vision, and with his perception, he determined Mo Fian's location. However, the opponent was a sea monster. No matter how familiar she was with the water, could she be more familiar with the water than a sea monster? Besides, the opponent's giant was also formed by water. It could be said that these two women were all water, and they started a battle without gunpowder. In everyone's perception, the water dragons were tumbling, and two huge water dragons were entangled in a battle with a huge water giant. On the sea, Mo Fian was still able to fight. However, when Mo Fian attacked, the opponent's companion's spirit appeared. A whale? In Han Fei's vision, data had already appeared. Name: Orca King, companion spirit. Introduction: a bloodthirsty creature with extremely sharp teeth. The strongest Orca King's teeth can break divine weapons. Its skull is extremely hard, and it likes to collide with the enemy. Its strength is so great that it can crack flash stones. Level 46, quality, legendary, contains spiritual energy greater than 7,325 points, edible effect, long-term consumption can strengthen one's physique, collectible Tiger King's sharp teeth unabsorbable, remarks, current strength, 2 million kilograms. Han Fei took in a deep breath and his expression turned serious. Very powerful. We seem to have underestimated the half-mermaids. I'm afraid this is the real half-mermaid. And those we saw just now are probably just low-level half-mermaids with demonic heritage. They are not comparable to these at all. Also, when these sea monsters attack, they all seem to be able to use the power of water. I think I can learn from them. Han Fei frowned. That makes sense. At this moment, the Orca King directly rolled up a tsunami, pouncing on Mo Fian. Mo Fian glanced back. She was forced to fight it head-on. Because once she dodged, the tsunami would hit her behind, and someone else would definitely take action. And if someone else took action, wouldn't it mean that she would lose? Pumph. Mo Fian snorted, and a long sword with a sheath appeared on her waist. Although Mo Fian had been using swords, she only used soft swords, and her real weapon was the snake-shaped sword that looked like a chain. And this one had a sheath? Swish. She drew the sword. Like a dragon. The sword in Mo Fian's hand reached 100 meters in an instant. It didn't just appear 100 meters away, but the length of the sword suddenly became hundreds of meters. Han Fei was dumbfounded. I have a 40-meter-long broadsword in my hand, so I can let you run 39 meters first. But this thing, a 100-meter-long sword, was really unheard of. At the moment she drew the sword, a water dragon soared into the sky, roaring and charging directly at the Orca King. Bam! Clang! Mo Fian took 4 or 5 steps back in a row, staggering and almost falling. However, the Orca King was blown back by this blow. Seeing this scene, Han Fei couldn't help but narrow his eyes. This was probably Mo Fian's strongest blow. Being able to repel the Orca King, which weighed 2 million kilograms, meant that Mo Fian's frontal combat ability was actually no weaker than Yang Du's. Mo Fian clutched her chest, vomited a mouthful of blood, and said lightly, "I won." On the other side, when the female half-mermaid appeared on the surface of the sea, her face was full of black stripes, obviously poisoned. Han Fei immediately said, "Oh, this woman is quite strong. She's fighting underwater and on the surface." She actually let her spiritual beast sneak attack the half-mermaid. Xia Xiaochan snorted. "That's nothing. I can sneak attack it directly." Han Fei grinned. "That's your assassination skill. However, from today on, you can't underestimate them anymore. 2 battles in a row, 1 lost and 1 won, but in fact, the human side lost. Up to now, in 4 battles, they had lost 3 in a row. This time, although Mo Fian won, she was seriously injured and no longer had the power to fight. It was equivalent to using Yang Diu and Mo Fian to defeat one opponent. In the rear, many people in the crowd held their breath. Although Yang Diu and Mo Fian were only junior hanging fishers in terms of level, they were all children of big clans. The current situation really showed that the heavenly talents on the human side were a little weak. When the other side sent out a second person, it was no longer Han Fei and the others who took the initiative to fight, but Zheng Chaojie arranged for someone to fight. He said, "Zhou Haiyang, you fight." After a while, everyone knew why. The half-mermaid on the other side was not as strong as the previous one, so adjudicator Zheng selected him to fight. Han Fei didn't know this Zhou Haiyang, but he was extremely fierce in fighting. Despite being seriously injured, he pierced the heart of the opposite half-mermaid with a knife. Zhang Xuanyu said via voice transmission, he is from the Trans-Island Patrol team. In fact, he is very famous. Han Fei nodded. Yes, but unfortunately he is also seriously injured. Immediately afterward, Jing Changfeng came out. His ghost god chain was completely suppressed by the opponent's water control technique. After a stalemate of about 2 minutes, he was nailed to the bottom of the sea by a harpoon, and Luo Xiaobai pulled him back. Ming Kun followed closely behind and barely won with the mad blood-burning technique. Immediately afterward, Zhao Lingjie was defeated and killed on the spot. 2 swords came out and killed the opponent on the spot with only 2 sword strikes. 2 swords was seriously injured in the second round, won another round, and was also seriously injured. At this point, there were only 3 people left on Han Fei's side, while the other side had 5 people left. At this moment, Han Fei's eyes fell on one of the male half-mermaids. That person gave him a strong feeling. Next to him was another petite female half-mermaid. Han Fei glanced at Sun Mu and then at Xia Shaochan. Forget it, my strength no longer allows me to keep a low profile. Leave this person to me. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 667. Just when Han Fei was about to make a move, suddenly, Sun Mu said, "I'll do it. I'll leave the woman to you." Han Fei frowned. "What do you mean? You mean the small half-mermaid?" Han Fei paused for a moment. "Although I also want to kill you, that male half-mermaid is obviously the strongest." Sun Mu glanced at Han Fei. "That little one is the strongest." Han Fei frowned and immediately looked back at the smaller half-mermaid, only to find that the smaller half-mermaid kept glancing at the 3 of them and didn't seem nervous at all. Han Fei turned his head and looked at Sun Mu. "How did you know?" Sun Mu's expression was solemn. "I've been paying attention to that woman from the very beginning. From the beginning to the end, she was only serious a few times." Han Fei sneered. "So, you left the hardest part to me?" Sun Mu said, "I left it to you because I trust you." Han Fei sneered. "Trust me, I will still kill you." While they were talking, the male half-mermaid had already walked out. He stretched out one hand, and a shiny golden harpoon appeared in his hand. "Who's up?" In the rear, when Zheng Chaojie and the others saw the golden harpoon, their eyes suddenly narrowed. Zheng Chaojie shouted, "How extravagant, even a divine weapon has been taken out. This kid is probably the trump card that you've prepared, right?" Divine weapon? Everyone who participated in this operation could not help but exclaim in surprise. In particular, Guan Qingyan's eyes lit up and he immediately said, "This is a semi-divine weapon, which can also be called a divine weapon. No spiritual weapon can resist the power of a divine weapon. Even spirit artifacts with sealed spirits are easily damaged." Mujia, what to do? I have nothing. It's not that you don't have any, but it's extremely difficult for humans to obtain divine weapons. Even if it's a semi-divine weapon, the powerhouses don't even have enough for themselves. How could it be passed down? However, he didn't know that he had no time to eavesdrop on other people's voice transmissions. Moreover, he was shocked by Adjudicator Zheng's divine weapon. Why was it so rich? It even has a divine weapon? On Zheng Chaojia's side, he immediately took out a long sword. The body of the sword spread like raging flames. As soon as the sword appeared, it reeked of blood. Opposite, the half-mermaid leader roared, "What do you want? Help them?" Zheng Chaojia snorted coldly. "Good move. In order to win, you don't even care about your face, do you?" The half-mermaid leader asked back, "That's because we're willing to. Can your human race bear to do so?" Sun Mu suddenly turned around and said, "Thank you, Lord Adjudicator, for your kindness." However, there was no need for that. The immortal slaying sword formation has never relied on weapons to win. Zheng Chaojia frowned. "If you can't win, you can retreat." Sun Mu nodded and glanced at Han Fei. "I can only stall this one. The rest is yours." After saying that, Sun Mu took a step forward and the 108 swords immediately left his body. Different from when Han Fei fought before, Sun Mu's 108 swords were all ultra-quality spiritual weapons with sealed spirits. One step of the sword formation fell. When the spiritual beasts fused with each other, Han Fei only saw spots of starlight around the array, but he didn't know what Sun Mu's spiritual beast was. With 3 steps, many mirrors seemed to appear in the air. What kind of contracted life form was this? Han Fei didn't know either. The 4th step, immortal slaying sword chi. The 5th step, immortal guides the way. The 6th step, red light shone everywhere. The 7th step, 10,000 swords become one. Han Fei couldn't help but exclaim, Sun Mu has only prepared one blow. After one blow, he will either win or lose. This time, he has learned his lesson. Behind him, the crowd exclaimed, Yang Du cursed. Sun Mu is going to risk his life with just one blow? Mo Fian looked solemn. This blow. Is he going to let Han Fei and Xia Shaochan deal with the other 4 people? Zhang Xuanyu cursed, son of a bitch, no wonder this kid wants to attack first. He's throwing the pot away. Luo Xiaobai frowned and looked at Sun Mu angrily. Although she usually wouldn't get angry, at this moment, she was a little angry. A hidden fissure frowned. This sword is strong, but there are still 4 people on the other side. Is he so confident that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan can win? No one knew what Zheng Chaojia was thinking, but he didn't move at all. Above the sea, within 500 meters of Sun Mu, starlight flickered. Under the reflection of countless mirrors, there was starlight everywhere. That sword of his had condensed all of his aura. The dense killing intent in the sword caused everyone to be moved. Han Fei's eyes fell on the short half-mermaid opposite him. This woman's expression became rare at this moment. She raised a hand slightly, which was keenly noticed by Han Fei. The female half-mermaid seemed to feel Han Fei's gaze and glanced at him lightly. On the field, at the same time as Sun Mu attacked, the male half-mermaid's body was burning with white flames. Then there was a dragon roar, and a horn grew out of his head, shaped like a sharp knife. On the golden harpoon in his hand, spiritual energy was boiling. The sea was sunken without any wind, and ripples piled up as if there was an earthquake. Dong, dong, dong. Han Fei knew what this feeling was. This half-mermaid was accumulating power, and the surrounding spiritual energy was crazily sweeping into his body. A layer of golden light enveloped him, as if turning him into a golden man, extremely sacred. At the same time, a golden battle suit appeared on his body. Fuck, there's a divine battle suit? The crowd was in an uproar, and Han Fei was speechless. This is fucking expensive. However, Sun Mu was unmoved and shouted in a low voice, merge into one. Sun Mu had already stabbed out with his sword. However, the sword was no longer a sword, but a red sword shadow. Breaking through the layers of shockwaves, he charged forward with a shocking battle intent that could slay the enemy with a single sword strike. Xia Shaochan glanced at Sun Mu. If there is a chance, we can't let this person live. Han Fei scoffed. It's okay. At that time, Let's see whether my invincible fighting intent is stronger or his killing intent is stronger. Maybe it was Han Fei's illusion, but Han Fei suddenly said, "Have you found that it seems that only hanging fishers really set foot on the beginning of cultivation in this world? The battle we saw today is not comparable to that of ordinary hanging fishers at all." Xia Xiaochan nodded. "Teachers said that a long time ago. But this is the first time I've experienced it." Not only did Han Fei and the others feel it, but everyone who witnessed all this seemed to have an illusion at this moment. The giant, the shocking sword intent, and the sacred golden harpoon were so gorgeous that the world seemed to be eclipsed. The golden harpoon of the half-mermaid, like a drop of water falling on a mirror-smooth water surface, collided with Sun Mu's sword. There was no sound, only a strange force, like a ripple, exploded around the place where the weapons collided. The seawater was cut. The ripple blasted into the Heaven-Human Canyon a kilometer below, and a big centipede that was nibbling the half-mermaid that had just died there was instantly cut into 2 pieces. Sun Mu vomited a mouthful of blood, but he didn't retreat. The half-mermaid didn't retreat at all, and blood flowed from its 7 orifices. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Suddenly, the knife-like horn on the half-mermaid's head slashed out a white light. Bam! Sun Mu retreated quickly, and the ultra-quality battle suit on his body flew in front of him. However, there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. Behind the half-mermaid, in a mirror, spots of starlight instantly gathered, and a sword that was exactly the same as the one just now stabbed at the half-mermaid from behind. Even Han Fei's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. That fucking starlight could become Sun Mu's strongest blow again. It was equivalent to Sun Mu being able to perform his strongest blow twice. And that mirror reminded Han Fei of Xiao Sei. In the long river of time, the reverse light technique that was taken away by the big-time dragon carp could connect space. The half-mermaid finally moved, but it had no time to look back. Thus, a strange white fish that looked like a white dragon collided with the coalescence sword with its single horn. Clang! The big fish's single horn exploded, and its head was directly split open. The half-mermaid bombarded with the golden harpoon with all its strength and retreated 100 meters on the sea surface. Its arm was dripping with blood, but it still managed to resist Sun Mu's killer move. Hiss! On the opposite side, the remaining 4 half-mermaids were furious. One of them appeared directly on the field, hugged the half-mermaid who was constantly vomiting blood, and roared at Sun Mu angrily. Puff! Sun Mu retreated, his chest covered with blood. Mo Fian caught him. "You really hid your strength well." Sun Mu looked at Han Fei. "I told you to stop him. The rest are yours." Han Fei narrowed his eyes, but Xia Xiaochan took a step forward first, and Han Fei quickly stopped her. "Come back." She was pulled back by Han Fei. Han Fei shook his head slightly. He didn't intend to let Xia Xiaochan fight. These half-mermaids were not weak and could be said to be extremely strong. Han Fei was confident that he could stop 1, 2, or even 3 of them. However, would the giant arowana be exposed? Xia Xiaochan's dual spiritual beasts could be exposed. But what if, as he had guessed, the giant arowana was not a spiritual beast? What if the giant arowana was a companion spirit? What if Xia Xiaochan got sick while fighting in the jungle? Han Fei didn't want to take this risk. Even if Xia Xiaochan really had dual spiritual beasts, who could resist such a possibility? If the group of people behind him found out that there was something wrong with Xia Xiaochan, things would be troublesome. In order to test whether he was a sea demon, Zhang Teng of the Scattered Stars prison, a 7-star powerhouse, pretended to be crazy and stayed in the cage with him for 2 days. It could be seen how deep the hatred between sea demons and humans was. Xia Xiaochan wanted to get rid of Han Fei but found that she couldn't. Xia Xiaochan looked back. "I can do it." Han Fei said firmly, "Go back. I'll take care of the next battle." Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 668. Han Fei grabbed Xia Xiaochan and threw her directly to Luo Xiaobai. "Catch her!" Xia Xiaochan shouted angrily. Han Fei. Han Fei turned around and grinned. No problem. They're just 4 half-mermaids. Watch me. In the crowd, a large number of people were speechless. What do you mean by just 4 half-mermaids? Look at these half-mermaids. None of them are easy to deal with. Zheng Chaojie looked at Han Fei. Nonsense. However, Zheng Chaojie didn't stop him. He was just a little surprised. This time, he originally wanted to hide a few people, so he was a little more conservative in choosing people when he went out to fight. Because he knew something that others didn't know, he knew that Xia Xiaochan was actually very strong. But who knew that Han Fei would stand up for her? Han Fei sneered. I promise I'll take her down. In the crowd, covered her mouth and said, This liar, he must be crazy. Is he going to fight for alone? The corners of Guan Qingyan's mouth twitched, and he analyzed rationally, only if Xia Xiaochan stays on the field will he have a chance of winning. Among the others, the seriously injured Chu Sun grinned. Can this guy do it? Lu Wei scoffed. Son of a bitch, this guy can't be treated as an ordinary person. If he dares to go, he must have a reason. Gong Yuehan had a complicated look in her eyes. In fact, after she came to the Scattered Stars Island, her performance was not very good. It was just that in the Heavenly Human Canyon, she led a team of people and was quite strong. However, Han Fei stood up in the Level 3 fishery and Luo Xiaobai stood up in the Heavenly Human Canyon. Therefore, no one discovered her excellence. At this time, after seeing the powerful attack just now, Han Fei still dared to go out alone and claimed that he could defeat the remaining 4 people on the opposite side. Could he do it? She didn't know. But few people could match his domineering attitude. Han Fei thought for a while and didn't use the million knife art. Instead, he summoned the blood-drinking knife and hung it on his waist. On the field, Han Fei said with a smile, Who's the first one? Han Fei looked at the smallest female half-mermaid. Previously, he thought that the man who had just been defeated was the strongest. But now, after Sun Mu's reminder, Han Fei also found that the smallest one might be the strongest. So at this moment, Han Fei was provoking them. It was best to get rid of the strongest one right from the start. In this way, he would flaunt his powerful aura and confidence in the following battles, and he would be successful in every endeavor. Unfortunately, the female half-mermaid just looked at Han Fei and didn't make a move. It was another male half-mermaid who came out. This person was no longer using a golden harpoon. Han Fei was relieved. Han Fei said with a smile, Not bad. If all of you took out your golden harpoons, I would have admitted defeat. Unfortunately, it's not gold. The half-mermaid glanced at Han Fei. I'll kill you too. The half-mermaid raised its harpoon high. In the sky, the sunlight shone down and actually burned this person. Even his hair was burning. Han Fei's eyes glittered. How did you manage to attract the heavenly fire into your body? How about we exchange some pointers? Exchange? Alright. As soon as the half-mermaid finished speaking, the sunbeam shot down again. However, this time, it didn't fall on him, but on Han Fei. No matter how fast Han Fei was, he couldn't be faster than the sun, could he? So, all of a sudden, a raging flame ignited on his body. His battle suit was scarlet, and he looked like a man walking out of the flames. Han Fei's first thought was to jump into the water. But the next second, he let out a sigh of relief. He thought it was the scorching power attracted by the void fishing technique. It turned out not to be. This was just a flame with a relatively high temperature. If someone knew that Han Fei had been baptized by Ren Tianfen's magma in the abyssal chasm, they would think that this level of flame was nothing to Han Fei. Behind him, only shouted stupidly, Liar, hide in the water. However, Han Fei stretched himself lazily and said, Well, not bad, it's quite warm. Do you still want to attack? If you don't, I'll do it. The half-mermaid's face changed slightly. Even the smallest half-mermaid over there wrinkled its nose slightly. This man is a bit arrogant. Fiery dragon array. Under Han Fei's feet, flames gathered into a large array in all directions. With the soaring flames burning, Han Fei's whole body was bathed in endless flames. Lu Renkuang roared, Oh, hurry up and attack. It made my heart beat faster. Zhang Xuanyu said, Fei Fei, although I know this may be very cool, we really look a bit scared. In the flames, a voice came out. Really? Then let's fight. When Han Fei said the word, let's fight, the harpoon of the half-mermaid bloomed with crimson light, and the red light gushing out was as gorgeous and cruel as the sunset, dyeing the sea red. The harpoon was crimson, rolling up magma-like liquid. However, before the half-mermaid fully prepared, a knife light suddenly appeared half a meter in front of him. The half-mermaid was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the knife light. His first reaction was to block it with his harpoon. As long as he blocked this blow, it would be time for him to counterattack. However, when the knife light touched his harpoon, he found an unparalleled fear, as if from a huge mouth in the abyss, making him unable to resist at all. The harpoon broke. A line of blood appeared from the half-mermaid's head to its thigh. In Han Fei's first battle, a half-mermaid who played with fire died with one blow. He's so fucking strong. In the crowd, many people were shocked, and someone murmured, "Is this blow so terrifying?" Someone swallowed. Oh my, if I had known he was so strong, I would have let him fight in the first battle. Mu Jia jumped up in surprise. Wow, is this liar so strong? Guan Qingyan's eyes flickered. I knew he was strong, but I didn't expect him to be this strong. Gong Yuehan let out a long breath. This guy really can't relax. Behind Zheng Chaojie, someone was speechless. This kid has mastered the air-breaking strike? How is it possible? He's just a junior hanging fisher. That's undoubtedly the air-breaking strike, but have you noticed it? There's an indescribable artistic conception in Han Fei's saber. Someone said, it doesn't look like knife intent. Yes, the knife intent is very special. But I don't feel anything special about this kid's knife. Zheng Chaojie said slowly, if I'm not mistaken, I'm afraid this is the art of invincibility. The art of invincibility? The hidden fishers widened their eyes. No, old Zheng, are you sure you didn't see it wrong? Old Zheng, have you ever seen the art of invincibility? Is the art of invincibility like this? Zheng Chaojie frowned. I'm not sure. However, even if this is not the art of invincibility, there is a hint of the art of invincibility in it, which is similar to the rumored description. The flame array was still burning, and Han Fei walked out of the flames empty-handed. At that moment, Han Fei was like a god of war born from the flames, dazzling, domineering, and imposing. What the hell? You're just a fish. Why are you playing with fire instead of water? Han Fei gently stroked the ends of his hair with his fingers, and some flames were dissipating. Next, who's next? The petite half-mermaid seemed to want to fight, but it seemed to be stopped. Han Fei saw it but didn't care. When a tall female half-mermaid walked out, Han Fei put his hand on his waist. Connected. The half-mermaid's body flickered with white light, and it had just fused with its companion spirit. Han Fei's aura suddenly exploded, as if it had risen several times in an instant. Then, a knife light was printed in front of the opponent's eyes. The second half-mermaid was killed before it even had a chance to attack. Shoot. On the opposite side, the eyes of the half-mermaid leader suddenly burst out with a strange light. The petite half-mermaid couldn't sit still and seemed to want to come out, but it was still suppressed. On the human side, someone was asking, who the hell can tell me, what's this guy's name? That's the kind of friend I lack. The disciples of the 7 major sects smiled bitterly. Is this guy a monster? Has he become so strong? Sun Mu was speechless. Did I fucking hit the wrong person just now? One slash, without even taking a breath, and he was dead? Zheng Chaojie and the group of hidden fishers were also dumbfounded. After a long time, someone said, is this a secret method? Someone frowned. An instantaneous burst type secret method? But this time is too short, isn't it? Zheng Chaojie frowned and said, no, it's strong, but Han Fei must have consumed a lot of energy. Luo Xiaobai and the others knew it very well. Just now, Han Fei activated the majestic mystic spell and then forcibly dispersed it. If it weren't for Han Fei's terrifying physique, most people would have suffered a backlash immediately. Xia Xiaochan frowned. Why did he use a secret method now? Let's wait and see. At this moment, Han Fei was looking at the petite half-mermaid with a smile. Are you going to come out? Why do you want your companion to die? Come out. Let's go home after the battle, okay? The petite half-mermaid looked at the leader. No. The leading half-mermaid refused directly, not giving her a chance to speak at all. Han Fei frowned slightly. He was accumulating power. In order to accumulate power, he didn't hesitate to kill 2 people with 2 slashes. These 2 slashes consumed 50% of the energy in his body. But it was also these 2 slashes that made his energy climb to a peak. If he used another slash, this peak would continue to rise. But when he saw the third half-mermaid come out, he knew that it was impossible for him to kill 4 enemies by himself. Han Fei grinned. Humans, you can't beat those who are too excellent. Come up and die. The third update, please vote. I'm saving up for more updates. Don't panic. The exciting scenes will come one after another. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.